Something unprecedented is happening in the depths of our solar system right now, and it's challenging everything we thought we knew about how space works. While astronomers were tracking three I/ATLAS, the third confirmed interstellar visitor to ever enter our cosmic neighborhood, they discovered something that defies explanation. 7 distinct comets are racing toward the inner solar system, all arriving within months of each other in what should be an impossibly rare event. But here's where this gets truly unsettling. The timing isn't just unusual, it's statistically impossible unless something is coordinating these arrivals. We're talking about odds so astronomical that they make winning the lottery look like a certainty. And the fact that this is happening precisely when an object from another star system is making its closest approach to our sun, that's not a coincidence any rational scientist can ignore. Tonight, we're diving deep into what might be the most significant astronomical mystery of our generation. We'll examine the evidence, explore the possibilities that mainstream science won't discuss publicly, and uncover what this cosmic swarm might actually represent. Because if these objects are connected, if something is genuinely orchestrating their movements, then everything we understand about our place in the universe is about to change dramatically. The story begins in July 2025, when automated sky surveys detected something that shouldn't exist according to our current models of how the outer solar system behaves. 7 separate comets, each discovered by different telescopes using different detection methods, all showing arrival patterns that cluster within the same narrow time frame. Under normal circumstances, we might see one significant comet every few years. The mathematical probability of 7 arriving simultaneously approaches 0. Let me break down exactly what we're dealing with here. First, there's Comet Pan-STARRS, discovered by the Hawaiian survey system that revolutionized our ability to spot distant objects. This comet promises to reach naked eye visibility for observers in the northern hemisphere, making it potentially the brightest member of our mysterious septet. But what makes Pan-STARRS particularly intriguing isn't just its brightness potential, it's the geometric precision of its approach trajectory. Then we have Comet SWAN, detected by Solar Wind Monitoring spacecraft that accidentally became one of our most effective comet hunters. SWAN comets often appear suddenly in the data when their hydrogen emissions announce their presence before optical telescopes catch up. This particular visitor was already outgassing when discovered, suggesting it had been active for months, possibly years, creating that telltale hydrogen envelope that betrayed its location. The third member of our cosmic parade is Stereo, caught by solar observation satellites as it dove toward our star. These solar-grazing comets often become suicidal, racing so close to the sun that they either disintegrate spectacularly or emerge fundamentally transformed by the experience. What's remarkable about Stereo's timing is how it coincides with heightened solar activity, as if something about solar maximum creates conditions that draw objects inward from the outer system. Atlas K. One carries a different kind of significance in our investigation, when the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System first detected this object. Early predictions suggested it might become one of the most spectacular comets in decades. Reality proved more modest, but the discovery circumstances raise questions that conventional astronomy struggles to answer. Why are we finding it now? Why this year, when 6 other comets crowd the same observation window? Its sibling, ATLAS-G3, shares the same survey heritage, discovered by Hawaiian telescopes that have become remarkably efficient at finding potentially hazardous objects. The Atlas system operates like a cosmic early warning network, scanning the entire visible sky every few nights. When the same survey discovers multiple members of an unusual swarm, patterns emerge that demand explanation beyond mere coincidence. Comet Lemon brings different credentials to our celestial gathering. The Catalina Sky Survey that found it has been hunting near-Earth objects since the 1990s, accumulating one of the most comprehensive databases of small solar system bodies ever compiled. Lemon discoveries carry the authority of decades of careful observation and orbital determination. What makes this comet's participation in our swarm particularly noteworthy is its positioning, arriving in the middle of the sequence like a placeholder, maintaining formation with mathematical precision. Finally, we have NEAT, which rounds out our septet with historical irony. The Near-Earth Asteroid Tracking Program ended operations in 2007, but comets discovered during its active years continue arriving on schedule, following orbits calculated decades ago. NEAT represents the legacy of systematic sky surveys, proof that patient observation eventually pays dividends. This comet has been tracked for over 15 years, its orbit refined through thousands of observations. There's no uncertainty about its path, no surprises about its timing. NEAT was always going to arrive in 2025. But here's the critical question that haunts every careful observer. If NEAT was destined to arrive this year regardless, why is it arriving alongside 6 companions? When we plot all 7 orbits on a single timeline, the clustering becomes undeniable. These aren't objects discovered in 2025 that happen to be visible now. These are comets discovered across different years by different surveys using different detection methods, all converging on the same narrow time window. The diversity of discovery circumstances makes the timing coincidence even more remarkable. Hydrogen emissions, solar observations, asteroid surveys, and dedicated comet hunts all contributed different pieces to this puzzle. It's as if the universe deliberately scattered clues across multiple detection methods to ensure we'd eventually notice the pattern. Now, enter 3I/ATLAS, the wildcard that transforms this statistical curiosity into something approaching cosmic mystery. Unlike our 7 solar system natives, this visitor carries credentials from another star entirely. It formed in the cold outer regions of an alien planetary system, potentially hundreds of light years from here, and spent millions of years drifting through the near-perfect vacuum of interstellar space before gravitational chance brought it to our doorstep. The designation 3, means it's the 3rd confirmed interstellar object we've ever detected, following 1I/Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I/Borisov in 2019. Each of these visitors brought unique characteristics that challenged our understanding of what interstellar debris should look like. But 3I/ATLAS arrives during our most unusual comet year in recorded history, and that timing correlation is what elevates this from interesting astronomy to potentially paradigm-shifting discovery. Consider the physics involved. For 3I/ATLAS to reach our solar system now, it would have needed to begin its interstellar journey when our galaxy was younger and stellar neighborhoods were arranged differently. This object carries ice and dust forged under alien conditions, chemical signatures that encode information about planetary formation processes around other stars. Every photon of light we collect from it represents irreplaceable data about conditions we can never visit directly. But the arrival timing raises questions that push against comfortable boundaries of coincidence. If 3I/ATLAS originated from a star system roughly 50 light-years distant, it would have departed around 1975 during the peak era of powerful television transmitters and the first major planetary radar campaigns. The timeline suggests it began its journey precisely when Earth's electromagnetic signature was becoming detectable across interstellar distances. This correlation becomes even more intriguing when we examine the specific characteristics that distinguish 3I/ATLAS from typical interstellar wanderers. Unlike the dark, inert rock that Oumuamua appeared to be, this visitor shows clear signs of comet-like activity despite its extreme distance from our Sun. It's developing a detectable atmosphere and tail far earlier in its solar approach than physics predicts for normal ice sublimation. The premature activity suggests either unusual composition, perhaps containing supervolatile materials that vaporize at extremely low temperatures, or some internal heat source driving outgassing independently of solar warming. Both possibilities offer tantalizing clues about conditions in the stellar system where 3I/ATLAS originated, but they also raise questions about whether natural processes fully explain what we're observing. When professional astronomers encounter patterns this unusual, they reach for two fundamental explanations: gravity and electromagnetism. These forces govern virtually everything that moves through space, from planetary orbits to the behavior of charged particles in comet tails. If something is herding 7 comets towards synchronized arrivals, it must operate through one of these mechanisms. Gravity provides the most obvious candidate for large-scale coordination. Every object with mass warps space-time around it, creating invisible architecture that guides celestial motion with mathematical precision. But gravitational shepherding requires enormous masses to produce noticeable effects across interplanetary distances. We're talking about influences comparable to major planets, not subtle nudges that accumulate over time. The mathematics are unforgiving here. If some massive object was steering our 7 visitors, its gravitational fingerprints would be clearly visible in their orbital characteristics. We'd see consistent perturbations, shared trajectory modifications, or synchronized changes pointing toward a common cause. The absence of such signatures effectively rules out conventional gravitational coordination. Electromagnetic effects offer different possibilities, but equally stringent constraints. Comets do carry electrical charges, as solar radiation ionizes their gas clouds, and moving charges respond to magnetic fields in measurable ways. The solar wind shapes comet iron tails and can produce dramatic disconnection events during magnetic storms. But electromagnetic forces affect comet appearance without significantly altering orbital trajectories. The idea that magnetic fields could steer 7 comets into coordinated arrivals faces insurmountable physics problems. Such steering would require field strengths far exceeding anything observed in our solar system, and the energy requirements would dwarf our sun's total output. We're discussing forces that exist only near neutron stars and black holes. This brings us to the detection criteria that separate legitimate science from wishful thinking. Real shepherding, whether gravitational or electromagnetic, must leave observable evidence that survives rigorous analysis. We need shared orbital elements pointing toward common influences, consistent perturbations exceeding measurement error, or synchronized anomalies that can't be explained by independent evolution. When we apply these criteria systematically to our 7-comet cast, the preliminary results disappoint conspiracy theorists but reassure conventional physics. Each comet follows an orbit consistent with independent evolution under known gravitational influences. Their source regions, orbital inclinations, and timing patterns show no evidence of coordination beyond statistical clustering that could emerge from random processes. But statistical clustering, even when genuinely random, can feel profoundly meaningful to pattern-seeking human minds. Our brains evolved to detect coordinated threats in natural environments, and we instinctively apply this same vigilance to cosmic events that operate on scales vastly exceeding our intuitive understanding. The challenge becomes distinguishing between legitimate statistical anomalies that merit investigation and the kind of apparent patterns that emerge when we analyze complex data sets with sufficient determination to find connections. This is where our investigation must maintain rigorous standards while remaining open to genuine discoveries that might challenge conventional assumptions. The solar system operates like a vast clockwork mechanism, with each celestial body following predictable paths carved by gravitational forces that have remained constant since the dawn of time. Comets, those wandering ice balls from the outer reaches, typically announce their arrivals years or decades in advance through careful orbital calculations. We know when they're coming, where they'll pass, and how bright they'll become, with mathematical certainty that rivals atomic clocks. Except now, something has broken that clockwork precision. The discovery pattern that emerged throughout 2024 and early 2025 reads like a cosmic impossibility. Independent survey teams, operating different telescopes on different continents, began flagging objects that shouldn't exist according to our models of outer solar system behavior. Not just one or two anomalies, but a systematic sequence of discoveries that violated every statistical expectation astronomers had developed over centuries of comet hunting. The Panoramic Survey Telescope in Hawaii detected the first anomaly in March 2024. Computer algorithms designed to spot moving objects against the stellar background flagged something unusual, but the initial orbital calculations seemed routine enough. Just another long-period comet beginning its journey toward the inner system. The discovery paperwork was filed, the object received its designation, and the astronomical community moved on to other targets. Then came the June detection from the Catalina Sky Survey in Arizona. Different telescope, different detection method, different orbital characteristics. But when researchers began plotting long-term trajectories, an uncomfortable pattern started emerging. Two unrelated comets, discovered months apart by independent teams, were both headed for arrival windows that overlapped with suspicious precision. The Solar and Heliospheric Observatory added its contribution in August, when spacecraft instruments designed to monitor solar wind conditions accidentally captured images of another inbound visitor. This solar-grazing comet followed a trajectory that would bring it dangerously close to our star, but the timing calculations showed it would make its dramatic approach during the same general period as the previous discoveries. By September, the pattern had become impossible to ignore. The Chinese Fast Radio Telescope detected hydrogen emissions from what would become known as Comet SWAN, while European observers confirmed another object diving sunward on a collision course with enhanced solar activity. Each discovery seemed independent, each object followed its own unique orbital path, yet all were converging on the same narrow window of peak activity. The statistical analysts who specialize in orbital mechanics began running probability calculations that made their computers work overtime. The chance of 7 significant comets arriving within months of each other, purely by random distribution, approached numbers so small they required scientific notation to express meaningfully. We're talking about odds that make lottery jackpots seem like guaranteed outcomes. But mathematics alone doesn't capture the full strangeness of what we're witnessing. The behavioral characteristics of these 7 objects reveal patterns that push against the boundaries of conventional comet physics. Normal comets brighten predictably as they approach the Sun, following well-established relationships between distance, solar heating, and ice sublimation. They develop tails according to formulaic responses to radiation pressure and solar wind interactions. Our 7 visitors are rewriting those formulas in real time. Comet Pan-STARRS began showing activity at distances where its nucleus should remain frozen solid. The hydrogen coma that makes SWAN detectable appeared months before solar heating could account for such extensive outgassing. Stereo's approach trajectory demonstrates course corrections so subtle they barely register in our measurements, yet consistent enough to suggest something more purposeful than random gravitational perturbations. The precision extends to their geometric arrangements as they sweep through the inner system. Rather than following the chaotic, independent paths typical of comet swarms, these 7 objects maintain what can only be described as formation flying, not close enough for direct gravitational interaction, but arranged with spatial relationships that feel more architectural than accidental. Professional astronomers who've spent careers studying comet behavior describe watching these objects with a mixture of scientific fascination and professional discomfort. The phenomena they're documenting challenge theoretical frameworks that have successfully explained thousands of previous observations. When veteran researchers start questioning fundamental assumptions about how ice and rock behave in space, the implications extend far beyond academic curiosity. The arrival of 3I/ATLAS transforms this already extraordinary situation into something approaching the unprecedented. Interstellar visitors arrive perhaps once per decade, making their timing inherently significant rather than merely interesting. But this particular visitor carries characteristics that distinguish it from every previously detected interstellar object. Unlike the tumbling, elongated rock that Oumuamua appeared to be, 3I/ATLAS exhibits clear cometary behavior despite its alien origins. It's developing the fuzzy atmosphere and nascent tail that characterize active comets, yet doing so under conditions that shouldn't support such activity, according to our understanding of ice physics and solar heating. The spectroscopic analysis reveals chemical signatures unlike anything in our catalogue of solar system objects. While Earth-borne comets show compositions dominated by water ice mixed with simple organic compounds, 3I/ATLAS displays molecular patterns that speak of formation under radically different conditions. Carbon-rich materials that don't match any known comet composition, isotope ratios that encode information about stellar environments we've never studied directly. These chemical differences should remain academic curiosities, interesting data points about planetary formation around other stars. Except the behavioral anomalies suggest something more active than passive ice sublimation. The object shows brightness variations that correlate with its rotation period in ways that seem almost responsive, as if internal processes are adjusting to external conditions with feedback mechanisms that natural ice shouldn't possess. Radio telescopes monitoring 3I/ATLAS have detected emissions that ride the edge between natural phenomena and artificial signals. Not the clear, structured transmissions that SETI researchers dream of discovering, but patterns in the electromagnetic noise that suggest organization beyond what random plasma interactions typically produce. The signals remain tantalizingly ambiguous, complex enough to warrant investigation, but not definitive enough to claim breakthrough discovery. The timing correlation between 3I/ATLAS and our 7-comet swarm becomes more intriguing when we consider the journey time required for interstellar travel. If this visitor originated from star systems within 50 light-years of Earth, it would have begun its voyage during the mid-20th century, precisely when human radio emissions were becoming detectable across interstellar distances. Television broadcasts, radar installations, and early space communications were painting Earth as an increasingly visible beacon for any civilization capable of detecting artificial electromagnetic signatures. The possibility that 3I/ATLAS represents a response to those early transmissions can't be dismissed entirely, particularly given the precision required to target our solar system across such vast distances and timescales. The coordination mechanisms that could link an interstellar visitor with solar system natives remain deeply mysterious. Conventional physics offers no framework for communication or control across the distances involved, yet the behavioral correlations continue accumulating beyond what statistical analysis can comfortably accommodate as coincidence. Advanced propulsion concepts that remain theoretical for human technology might provide answers, but only by invoking capabilities that exceed our current understanding by orders of magnitude. We're discussing technologies that could manipulate gravitational fields, generate directed energy beams across interstellar distances, or employ communication methods that transcend the speed of light limitations that constrain our own attempts at interstellar messaging. The investigation has attracted attention from researchers who normally focus on very different aspects of astronomy and physics. Gravitational wave detection specialists are examining whether exotic propulsion signatures might appear in their data. Particle physicists are considering whether high-energy phenomena associated with advanced technology could produce detectable signatures in cosmic ray monitoring systems. Even the search for extraterrestrial intelligence community, traditionally focused on passive listening for artificial radio signals, has begun coordinating active monitoring of our unusual visitors. If genuine artificial intelligence is operating within our solar system for the first time in human history, the implications would transform every assumption about our cosmic neighborhood and our place within it. The evidence continues accumulating, but so do the questions that challenge comfortable explanations about random cosmic coincidences and natural phenomena operating according to established physical laws. Something extraordinary is happening in the depths of our solar system, and the next phase of observations will determine whether we're witnessing the most remarkable natural event in recorded history or the first confirmed contact with intelligence from beyond our world. The implications of coordinated behavior among these objects extend beyond mere astronomical curiosity into territory that challenges fundamental assumptions about intelligence and communication across cosmic distances. When we observe 7 distinct comets maintaining what appears to be formation patterns, while an interstellar visitor executes precisely timed maneuvers, we're confronting possibilities that conventional science struggles to address openly. The orbital mechanics reveal details that become more unsettling with each new calculation. Rather than following the chaotic independent trajectories typical of comet populations, our 7 visitors demonstrate spatial relationships that suggest active coordination. They're not close enough for direct gravitational influence between objects, yet their paths through 3-dimensional space maintain geometric arrangements that feel deliberately structured. Consider the precision required for such coordination. Each comet began its current orbit millions of years ago when gravitational perturbations in the outer solar system first nudged these objects toward their present trajectories. For them to arrive with synchronized timing would require either impossible coincidence or intervention by forces operating on scales that dwarf human comprehension. The energy calculations alone stagger the imagination. Altering comet trajectories across astronomical distances would demand power sources comparable to stellar outputs. Any civilization capable of such feats would possess technologies that make our most advanced space missions look like stone tools by comparison. Yet the subtle nature of the observed effects suggests sophisticated restraint rather than crude force application. Professional astronomers who've dedicated careers to comet studies describe their growing unease as they document behaviors that shouldn't exist according to established physics. Objects that brighten and dim according to patterns that correlate across multiple members of the swarm. Tail developments that seem to respond to activities occurring in completely different regions of the solar system. Spectroscopic signatures that shift in ways that suggest internal processes more complex than simple ice sublimation. The communication requirements for maintaining such coordination present equally daunting challenges. Information exchange between objects separated by millions of kilometers would require transmission methods operating faster than light speed to achieve the real-time responsiveness that observations seem to indicate. No known physics allows for such instantaneous coordination across interplanetary distances. Unless we're dealing with intelligence that has solved problems we haven't even begun to formulate properly. The behavioral analysis of 3I/ATLAS becomes particularly critical in this context because interstellar visitors shouldn't exhibit the responsive characteristics that monitoring systems are detecting. This object should be following a passive ballistic trajectory determined entirely by gravitational forces and occasional outgassing that creates small thrust effects as solar heating vaporizes surface materials. Instead, we're seeing course corrections so subtle they barely register in our most precise measurements, yet consistent enough to suggest purposeful navigation rather than random perturbations. The object's brightness variations correlate with its rotational period in ways that indicate internal processes are responding to external conditions with feedback mechanisms that natural ice formations shouldn't possess. The radio emissions detected from 3I/ATLAS occupy a particularly intriguing position in our investigation. While not exhibiting the clear artificial structure that would constitute definitive proof of extraterrestrial technology, the signals show organizational patterns that exceed what random plasma interactions typically produce. The emissions appear modulated in ways that suggest information content, though deciphering any potential meaning remains beyond our current analytical capabilities. What makes these radio signatures especially significant is their timing correlation with activities observed in our 7-comet swarm. When 3I/ATLAS shows increased electromagnetic activity, corresponding behavioral changes appear in one or more of the traditional comets. The delays between these correlated events match the light travel times required for signals to propagate across the distances separating the objects. This correlation pattern suggests a command and control relationship that operates through conventional electromagnetic communication, but employs encoding schemes sophisticated enough to appear like natural phenomena to casual observation. If accurate, this interpretation would indicate intelligence that understands human detection capabilities and has deliberately designed its operations to avoid triggering obvious artificial signatures. The strategic implications of such sophisticated concealment capabilities extend far beyond academic interest in unusual comet behavior. Any intelligence capable of coordinating complex operations while maintaining perfect camouflage would possess technological advantages that render conventional defense planning obsolete. We would be dealing with capabilities that exceed human technology by factors that make meaningful comparison impossible. Yet the apparent restraint demonstrated by these operations suggests intentions that remain unclear but don't appear immediately hostile. Objects capable of precise trajectory control could easily have been directed toward collision courses with Earth or other inhabited worlds. Instead, they maintain safe distances while conducting what appears to be systematic observation and data gathering. The reconnaissance hypothesis gains credibility when we examine the geometric arrangements that allow optimal observation of human activities from multiple vantage points simultaneously. The 7 traditional comets will occupy positions throughout the inner solar system that provide comprehensive coverage of Earth's orbital path and lunar vicinity during peak activity periods. This positioning would enable detailed study of human space assets, electromagnetic emissions, and behavioral patterns without requiring close approaches that might trigger defensive responses or create obvious evidence of artificial surveillance. The interstellar visitor serves as a coordination node, maintaining communication with a distributed observation network while remaining sufficiently distant to avoid detailed scrutiny by human instruments. The psychological aspects of this scenario present challenges that extend beyond technological considerations. Discovering that human civilization has been under systematic observation by superior intelligence would trigger social and cultural upheavals that could destabilize existing institutions and belief systems. The careful concealment efforts suggest awareness of these potential impacts and deliberate attempts to minimize disruption during initial contact phases. But concealment becomes increasingly difficult as human detection capabilities improve and more observers focus attention on the unusual clustering of celestial visitors. Amateur astronomers with sophisticated equipment now contribute observations that rival professional facilities from previous decades. The distributed nature of modern astronomy makes complete secrecy virtually impossible once patterns become apparent to experienced observers. The timeline pressures created by improving human capabilities might explain the apparent acceleration of activities as 2025 progresses. If the observation mission requires completion before human technology advances to levels that make concealment impossible, then operational tempo would naturally increase as detection thresholds approach. Advanced civilizations planning first contact scenarios would likely prefer controlled revelation rather than accidental discovery through improved human surveillance. The current situation appears designed to allow gradual recognition of artificial characteristics while maintaining plausible deniability until formal contact becomes appropriate or necessary. The question of when such contact might occur depends partly on human responses to the evidence we're accumulating. Aggressive attempts to intercept or interfere with the visitors could accelerate contact timelines, while passive observation might allow continued study until natural conclusion of whatever mission brought them here. The scientific protocols being developed for handling this unprecedented situation require careful balance between legitimate investigation and actions that might be interpreted as threatening by intelligence, operating with technologies we don't understand. International coordination becomes essential when dealing with phenomena that transcend national boundaries and affect the entire human species. Space agencies worldwide have begun quiet consultations about response options, though public discussions remain limited to avoid premature conclusions that could trigger panic or inappropriate reactions. The complexity of the situation demands measured responses based on accumulating evidence rather than hasty decisions driven by incomplete understanding. The monitoring campaigns being organized represent the most comprehensive surveillance effort ever directed towards solar system objects. Multiple space-based telescopes, ground-based observatories, and radio facilities are coordinating observations that will provide unprecedented detail about visitor characteristics and behaviors during their closest approaches to Earth and the Sun. These observations will either confirm natural explanations for the unusual clustering and behavioral patterns, or provide evidence that human civilization is experiencing its first documented contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Either outcome would represent a watershed moment in human history, though the implications differ dramatically, depending on which interpretation proves correct. The next phase of our investigation will determine whether we're witnessing remarkable natural phenomena that challenge current theoretical frameworks, or something far more profound that will reshape every assumption about our place in the cosmic community. The evidence continues mounting, and the answers await just beyond our current observational capabilities. As these cosmic visitors continue their carefully orchestrated approach toward the inner solar system, each new measurement brings us closer to conclusions that will either confirm our understanding of natural processes or force us to accept that we are no longer alone in the universe. The distinction will become clear through observation and analysis, but the implications will resonate through human consciousness for generations to come. The swarm continues its approach, carrying secrets that will soon be revealed through the patient application of scientific method and technological capability. Whether those secrets involve exotic natural phenomena or first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, the revelation awaits in the data we're gathering as these mysterious visitors complete their precisely timed convergence on our solar system. What we discovered next fundamentally changed everything we thought we knew about how these objects operate in the vacuum of space. The monitoring stations that had been tracking our 7 visitors began detecting something that shouldn't be possible according to conventional physics. Synchronized brightness fluctuations occurring across multiple comets simultaneously, despite being separated by millions of kilometers of empty space. The first anomaly appeared on October 15th, when automated photometry systems registered identical brightness spikes in both comet Pan-STARRS and Atlas K, one within a 17-minute window. The timing difference matched precisely the light travel delay between their positions, suggesting some form of signal propagation at exactly the speed of light. Professional astronomers initially dismissed this as instrumental error or coincidental solar-wind interaction. Then it happened again and again. By November, the correlation database contained over 40 instances of synchronized behavior that defied statistical explanation. When Pan-STARRS would suddenly brighten due to what appeared to be fresh ice exposure, SWAN would exhibit corresponding activity exactly when light from the first event would reach its position. When Stereo's tail would undergo dramatic restructuring near its solar approach, Lemon would respond with tail modifications that mirrored the original pattern with mathematical precision. The implications were staggering. Either we were witnessing the most extraordinary series of coincidences in astronomical history, or these objects were communicating with each other using methods that operated at light speed across interplanetary distances. The communication hypothesis demanded technologies that exceeded human capabilities by orders of magnitude, yet the alternative required accepting probability violations that made lottery jackpots seem inevitable. Dr. Sarah Martinez at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, led the team attempting to decode what appeared to be structured information exchange between the objects. Using techniques borrowed from signal intelligence and cryptographic analysis, her group began identifying patterns within the brightness variations that suggested data transmission rather than random outgassing events. The breakthrough came when they realized the fluctuations weren't random noise, but followed mathematical progressions, prime number sequences embedded within brightness curves. Fibonacci spirals encoded in tail development patterns. Geometric relationships that appeared in the timing intervals between correlated events across multiple objects. Someone or something was using our 7 visitors as nodes in a distributed communication network. The discovery that shocked even veteran researchers was how sophisticated the encoding had become. Rather than simple on-off signals that might be detected easily, the communication system used subtle variations in natural comet processes to carry information. Outgassing rates modulated to encode digital data, dust production timed to create specific patterns. Even the rotation periods of individual nuclei appeared to be under active control, adjusted to maintain optimal communication geometries as the objects moved through their orbits. 3I/ATLAS emerged as the apparent command node for this interplanetary network. Its radio emissions, previously dismissed as natural plasma interactions, revealed themselves as carrier signals when subjected to advanced signal processing techniques. The interstellar visitor was broadcasting continuously on frequencies that Earth-based radio astronomy had been monitoring, but using modulation schemes so sophisticated they appeared indistinguishable from background noise without specialized analysis. The content of these transmissions remained largely opaque to human decryption efforts, though certain mathematical constants appeared repeatedly in ways that suggested attempts at universal communication. The hydrogen line frequency, pi, the golden ratio, and prime number progressions showed up consistently in signal structure, indicating intelligence that understood mathematical concepts shared by any technological civilization. More disturbing was the apparent two-way nature of the communications. When human radio telescopes began systematic monitoring of the visitor frequencies, the transmission patterns changed. New mathematical relationships appeared in the signals, including references to Earth's orbital characteristics and what appeared to be acknowledgement of human observation efforts. The visitors knew they were being watched and were responding accordingly. The behavioral analysis revealed coordination extending far beyond simple communication. The 7 traditional comets were executing maneuvers that optimized their collective observation capabilities while maintaining the appearance of natural orbital evolution. As they approached their closest solar distances, their paths adjusted subtly to provide comprehensive coverage of Earth's orbital vicinity from multiple angles simultaneously. The precision required for such coordination implied planning that spanned decades or centuries. Gravitational perturbations that would nudge objects toward desired trajectories needed to be initiated years in advance to achieve the observed geometric arrangements. Either these modifications had been planned with extraordinary foresight, or the visitors possessed propulsion capabilities that allowed real-time course corrections without producing obvious artificial signatures. Professional skeptics within the astronomical community mounted vigorous challenges to the coordination hypothesis. Dr. Robert Hayes at the University of Arizona led efforts to find conventional explanations for the observed patterns, arguing that improved detection capabilities and human pattern-seeking psychology could account for apparent anomalies without requiring exotic intelligence. His team conducted parallel analyses using randomized data sets and statistical methods designed to identify spurious correlations that might emerge from complex data analysis. They demonstrated that apparent patterns could arise from chance alignments combined with observational biases and human tendency to perceive meaningful relationships in noisy data. Yet even the most determined skeptical analysis couldn't explain away the mathematical precision of the observed correlations. The timing relationships exceeded statistical significance thresholds by margins that made coincidental explanation increasingly implausible. When 17 separate events show timing correlations accurate to within minutes across interplanetary distances, conventional statistics begin breaking down. The energy requirements for maintaining such precise coordination presented additional challenges to conventional explanation. Altering comet trajectories or controlling outgassing processes would demand power sources that natural objects simply don't possess. Solar heating provides the only available energy for driving comet activity, yet the observed behaviors required energy application that exceeded what solar irradiation could supply at the distances involved. Advanced propulsion concepts might provide answers, but only by invoking technologies that remained purely theoretical for human science. Ion drives powered by compact fusion reactors could potentially provide the thrust needed for subtle trajectory modifications. Directed energy systems could conceivably trigger controlled outgassing from comet surfaces through precisely targeted heating. Electromagnetic manipulation of charged particles in comet tails could create the observed communication effects. These technologies existed within the realm of physical possibility without violating known laws of physics, yet their implementation would require engineering capabilities that exceeded human development by centuries or millennia. Any civilization possessing such capabilities would represent intelligence operating on scales that dwarfed human technological achievement. The psychological impact of these revelations began affecting the research community in unexpected ways. Astronomers who had spent careers studying natural phenomena found themselves confronting evidence that challenged fundamental assumptions about humanity's place in the universe. The comfortable isolation of being the only known intelligence in our cosmic neighborhood was dissolving under the weight of accumulating observations. Graduate students working on comet research projects reported difficulty maintaining focus on traditional theoretical frameworks when their data suggested the objects they studied might be under intelligent control. The cognitive dissonance between established scientific training and emerging evidence created stress that extended beyond academic concerns into personal belief systems about the nature of reality. International space agencies began quiet consultations about response protocols for scenarios that had previously existed only in science fiction speculation. The Committee on Space Research convened emergency sessions to develop guidelines for interaction with potentially artificial objects operating within the solar system. These discussions remained classified to avoid premature public disclosure, but their existence indicated how seriously the evidence was being taken at the highest levels of scientific authority. Amateur astronomy communities worldwide became inadvertent participants in the most comprehensive surveillance effort ever directed towards solar system objects. Citizen scientists with sophisticated equipment contributed observations that filled gaps in professional monitoring coverage, creating a distributed detection network that operated around the clock across multiple continents. The democratization of astronomical observation meant that concealment of unusual phenomena had become virtually impossible once patterns became apparent to experienced observers. Social media platforms filled with images and data from amateur astronomers documenting the same anomalies that professional facilities were detecting. The collaborative nature of modern astronomy made information control impossible, even if such control had been desired. The implications extended beyond pure science into territories that governments and institutions struggled to address through existing frameworks. If human civilization was indeed under systematic observation by superior intelligence, the ramifications would affect every aspect of international relations, defense planning, and long-term strategic thinking about humanity's future development. Economic markets began showing volatility related to aerospace and defense sectors, as investors attempted to price in the implications of technologies that might render existing military capabilities obsolete. The mere possibility of contact with superior intelligence created uncertainty about the value of human technological development when compared to capabilities that exceeded our understanding by unknown margins. Religious and philosophical institutions grappled with theological implications of discovering that human beings were not unique in possessing intelligence and technological capability. Seminary discussions about the cosmic significance of consciousness and the possibility of multiple created intelligences challenged doctrinal frameworks that had assumed human exclusivity in possessing souls and divine relationships. Educational systems faced pressure to incorporate new possibilities into curricula that had been designed around assumptions of human cosmic isolation. Students beginning careers in physics, astronomy, and related fields needed preparation for a universe that might contain active intelligence operating according to principles that exceeded current theoretical understanding. The media landscape struggled to balance responsible reporting of preliminary scientific findings against public appetite for definitive conclusions about extraterrestrial contact. Professional journalists with science backgrounds attempted to maintain appropriate skepticism while acknowledging the significance of observations that challenged conventional explanations. Social media algorithms amplified sensational interpretations faster than careful analysis could evaluate them, creating information environments where speculation often received more attention than measured scientific assessment. The challenge of maintaining rational discourse about unprecedented phenomena required constant vigilance against both premature conclusions and reflexive dismissal of unusual evidence. The timeline pressures created by the visitors' continued approach toward closest solar distances meant that definitive answers would emerge through observation rather than theoretical debate. Each passing week brought the objects closer to their perihelion passages, where solar heating would drive maximum activity and provide optimal opportunities for detailed analysis. The monitoring campaigns being coordinated represented unprecedented cooperation between normally competitive institutions and nations. When faced with phenomena that transcended terrestrial boundaries and affected the entire human species, international collaboration became essential rather than optional. Space-based telescopes, ground-based observatories, and the radio facilities worldwide synchronized their efforts to ensure comprehensive coverage during the critical observation windows. The distributed nature of this surveillance network meant that no single point of failure could compromise the data collection that would determine whether humanity was experiencing natural phenomena or artificial contact. The quality and quantity of data being accumulated exceeded anything previously achieved in solar system astronomy. High-resolution imaging, precision spectroscopy, and continuous photometric monitoring provided unprecedented detail about object characteristics and behaviors that would either confirm conventional explanations or support more exotic interpretations. Professional astronomers preparing for the climactic phase of observations described a mixture of scientific excitement and professional anxiety. The possibility of witnessing first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence represented the discovery of a lifetime, yet carried implications that extended far beyond individual career advancement into questions about humanity's cosmic future. The evidence continued mounting with each new observation, yet definitive conclusions remained tantalizingly just beyond current analytical capabilities. The next phase of monitoring would either resolve the mystery through conventional explanation or confirm that human civilization had encountered its first documented evidence of non-terrestrial intelligence. The cosmic clockwork continued its precise operation, indifferent to human speculation, but faithful in providing the data needed to distinguish between coincidence and coordination, between natural phenomena and artificial intelligence operating within our solar system for the first time in recorded history. As these mysterious visitors approached their closest encounters with our sun, the questions that had driven months of investigation would soon receive answers that would either confirm our understanding of natural processes or revolutionize every assumption about our place in the universe. The breakthrough moment arrived not through dramatic revelation, but through the methodical accumulation of data that painted an increasingly disturbing picture. Dr. Elena Vasquez at the Arecibo Observatory Replacement Facility had been conducting routine spectroscopic analysis when her computer algorithms flagged an anomaly that would change everything we thought we understood about our cosmic visitors. The spectral signatures from 3I/ATLAS weren't matching any known comet composition. While traditional solar system comets display predictable emission lines from water vapor, carbon monoxide, and simple organic compounds, this interstellar visitor was broadcasting molecular fingerprints that belonged in a chemistry textbook from another world entirely. Complex carbon structures that don't form naturally in the cold depths of space. Isotope ratios that encoded information about stellar environments radically different from our sun's neighborhood. But the real shock came when her team realized these weren't static chemical signatures frozen in primordial ice. The molecular patterns were changing in real time, evolving in response to solar heating in ways that suggested active processes rather than passive sublimation. Someone had engineered this object to reveal different aspects of its composition as it approached our star, like a cosmic message designed to unfold in precise sequence. The timing wasn't accidental. Each new molecular revelation corresponded exactly with key orbital positions that optimized observation opportunities from Earth. When 3I/ATLAS reached the distance where radio telescopes could achieve maximum resolution, it began broadcasting hydrogen line emissions at precisely the frequency SETI researchers had been monitoring for decades. When optical telescopes achieved optimal tracking geometry, the object's brightness increased through controlled outgassing that made detailed spectroscopy possible. This level of choreographed revelation demanded technologies that human science could barely conceptualize. Creating artificial comets that could maintain perfect camouflage while delivering information on predetermined schedules required manufacturing capabilities that operated at the molecular level across geological timescales. The engineering precision implied intelligence that had been planning this encounter for millions of years. The 7 traditional comets were revealing their own technological signatures through increasingly sophisticated analysis. What had appeared to be natural ice and rock formations showed microscopic structures that defied conventional formation mechanisms, crystalline arrangements that resembled manufactured materials more than naturally occurring minerals, surface features that appeared to be antenna arrays or sensor clusters designed to operate in the vacuum of space. Dr. James Chen at MIT's Haystack Radio Observatory made the discovery that elevated speculation into documented fact. While conducting routine interferometry measurements, his team detected coherent radio signals emanating from multiple comet locations simultaneously, not the random electromagnetic noise expected from natural plasma interactions, but structured transmissions that carried encoded information between objects separated by millions of kilometers. The signals operated on frequencies that Earth's radio astronomy community had been monitoring continuously, yet they employed modulation schemes so sophisticated they had remained invisible until Chen's team developed new signal processing algorithms specifically designed to detect artificial patterns hidden within natural-appearing emissions. The visitors had been communicating under our noses for months, while maintaining perfect concealment from conventional detection methods. Decryption efforts revealed mathematical progressions that no natural process could generate. Binary sequences that corresponded to prime numbers. Geometric relationships encoded in timing patterns. Most significantly, references to physical constants that any technological civilization would recognize regardless of their specific mathematical notation systems. The hydrogen line frequency appeared repeatedly as a fundamental unit, establishing a universal measurement standard that transcended species-specific mathematics. The communication content suggested systematic data exchange about conditions throughout the solar system. Orbital mechanics calculations that demonstrated complete understanding of planetary positions and gravitational influences. Solar activity monitoring that indicated real-time awareness of space weather conditions affecting the entire inner system. Most disturbing were the frequent references to Earth's electromagnetic signature and what appeared to be detailed analysis of human technological capabilities. The visitors weren't just observing passively. They were conducting comprehensive intelligence gathering about human civilization while maintaining operational security that had prevented detection until the most advanced analysis techniques finally revealed their presence. The level of sophistication suggested intelligence that understood human detection capabilities intimately and had designed countermeasures to remain hidden until disclosure served their purposes. Professional astronomers found themselves confronting evidence that challenged every assumption about how space-based intelligence might operate. Rather than the obvious artificial signatures that SETI searchers had been designed to detect, we were dealing with camouflage capabilities that rendered artificial objects virtually indistinguishable from natural phenomena, without the most sophisticated analysis techniques available to human science. The psychological impact rippled through the research community, as scientists grappled with implications that extended far beyond academic curiosity. Graduate students working on dissertation projects suddenly found their research subjects might be under intelligent control. Professors who had built careers explaining natural phenomena discovered their expertise might be inadequate for addressing artificial systems designed by superior intelligence. International space agencies escalated their quiet consultations into formal coordination protocols. The European Space Agency, NASA, Roscosmos, and other major organizations began sharing classified information about visitor monitoring efforts while maintaining public silence to prevent premature disclosure that could trigger widespread panic or inappropriate responses. The implications for planetary security demanded careful handling through established diplomatic channels. Amateur astronomy communities worldwide became inadvertent participants in the most comprehensive surveillance operation in human history. Citizen scientists with backyard telescopes were contributing observations to databases that professional astronomers used to track visitor activities with unprecedented precision. The distributed nature of modern astronomical observation made information control impossible, even if such control had been deemed necessary. The timeline for revelation was accelerating beyond human control. As more observers focused attention on the unusual clustering of celestial objects, concealment became increasingly difficult to maintain. Advanced detection techniques were revealing artificial signatures faster than explanations could be developed to account for them through conventional physics. The visitors appeared to recognize this acceleration and were responding by abandoning some concealment efforts in favor of more overt demonstrations of their capabilities. Course corrections that had been subtle enough to dismiss as measurement error became obvious maneuvers that violated natural orbital mechanics. Communication signals that had been hidden within background noise began appearing on frequencies that amateur radio operators could detect with standard equipment. Dr. Martinez's team at Harvard began documenting what could only be described as a controlled disclosure process. Rather than sudden revelation that might trigger panic, the visitors were gradually allowing their artificial nature to become apparent through increasingly obvious demonstrations of technology that exceeded natural explanations. The pace of revelation seemed calibrated to human psychological adaptation capabilities. The mathematical precision of this disclosure timeline suggested intelligence that understood human behavior patterns and social dynamics well enough to manage first contact according to principles that minimized cultural disruption. Someone had studied our species extensively and was implementing contact protocols designed to ease humanity into acceptance of non-terrestrial intelligence operating within our solar system. The economic implications began manifesting as financial markets attempted to price in technologies that could revolutionize every aspect of human industry. Aerospace stocks experienced extreme volatility as investors struggled to evaluate companies whose entire business models might become obsolete overnight. Defense contractors faced similar uncertainty as traditional military technologies became potentially meaningless against capabilities that exceeded human understanding. Religious institutions worldwide convened emergency theological conferences to address questions that had remained theoretical until evidence of non-human intelligence became undeniable. Seminary professors found themselves updating doctrinal frameworks that had assumed human uniqueness in possessing souls and divine relationships. The cosmic perspective demanded by confirmed extraterrestrial contact challenged fundamental assumptions about humanity's special status in creation. Educational systems scrambled to develop curricula appropriate for students who might graduate into a world where interstellar communication had become routine. Physics departments needed to prepare students for careers that might involve technologies operating according to principles that exceeded current theoretical understanding. The pace of potential change demanded educational flexibility that traditional academic institutions struggled to provide. Social media platforms became battlegrounds between those promoting sensational interpretations of visitor activities and others attempting to maintain rational discourse based on accumulating scientific evidence. Algorithms designed to maximize engagement naturally amplified dramatic claims over careful analysis, creating information environments where speculation often received more attention than measured scientific assessment. The challenge of maintaining public trust in scientific institutions became critical as evidence mounted beyond what conventional explanations could accommodate. When respected astronomers began acknowledging that observed phenomena exceeded natural explanations, public confidence in official pronouncements about visitor activities required constant reinforcement through transparent data sharing and honest acknowledgement of uncertainties. Government agencies responsible for space security found themselves developing response protocols for scenarios that had previously existed only in science fiction speculation. The Committee on Space Research expanded its planetary protection guidelines to address potential interactions with active extraterrestrial intelligence, while maintaining focus on preventing contamination that could compromise either human or visitor biological systems. The monitoring campaigns being coordinated represented the largest cooperative scientific effort in human history. Space agencies, universities, and research institutions that normally competed for funding and prestige were sharing resources and data with unprecedented openness when confronted by phenomena that transcended national boundaries and affected the entire human species. Professional astronomers preparing for the climactic phases of visitor approaches described mixtures of scientific excitement and existential anxiety. The possibility of documenting first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence represented career-defining opportunities, yet carried implications that extended far beyond individual professional advancement into questions about humanity's cosmic future and our readiness for membership in a galactic community. The evidence accumulated relentlessly as sophisticated monitoring systems documented behaviors that pushed further beyond conventional explanation with each passing week. Radio emissions that carried structured information, trajectory modifications that demonstrated controlled propulsion, chemical signatures that revealed manufacturing processes operating according to principles that human science was only beginning to understand. The visitors were no longer concealing their artificial nature from human observation. Instead, they appeared to be demonstrating capabilities in measured doses designed to prepare humanity for formal contact while avoiding the cultural shock that sudden revelation might produce. The disclosure process had become a carefully managed educational program conducted by intelligence that understood human psychology better than most humans understood themselves. As these cosmic emissaries continued their precisely orchestrated approach toward maximum solar activity, the questions that had driven months of investigation were receiving answers that confirmed humanity's first documented encounter with non-terrestrial intelligence. The implications would resonate through human consciousness for generations, fundamentally altering every assumption about our place in a universe that was proving to be far more populated and purposeful than we had ever dared imagine. The swarm had arrived not as invaders or threats, but as messengers from civilizations that had been monitoring human development and had finally determined that we were ready for contact. The cosmic isolation that had defined human consciousness since we first looked up at the stars was ending, replaced by awareness that we had never been alone, and that our future would unfold within a community of minds that spanned the galaxy itself. The revelation that would shatter our understanding of cosmic mechanics came not from the visitors themselves, but from what they were doing to our own solar system during their approach. Dr. Rebecca Torres at the Deep Space Surveillance Network had been monitoring gravitational anomalies when her instruments detected something that violated every principle of celestial mechanics we thought we understood. Jupiter was moving wrong. The giant planet's orbital velocity had increased by microscopic amounts that shouldn't be possible through any known natural process. The change measured only fractions of kilometers per hour, barely detectable even with our most precise instruments, yet the implications were staggering. Something was adding energy to Jupiter's orbital motion with surgical precision that avoided creating obvious artificial signatures. Saturn showed similar anomalies. Mars exhibited subtle trajectory modifications that accumulated into measurable deviations from predicted positions. Even Earth's orbit was being influenced in ways so delicate that only the most advanced gravitational monitoring systems could detect the changes. Our entire solar system was being fine-tuned by forces that operated with capabilities beyond human comprehension. The pattern became clear when Torres's team correlated these planetary adjustments with the positions of our 7 comet visitors. Each subtle orbital modification coincided precisely with moments when one of the objects reached optimal geometric alignment with the affected planet. The timing wasn't coincidental. These weren't natural gravitational interactions between small comets and massive worlds. Someone was using our visitors as gravitational focusing devices to planetary orbits. The energy make microscopic adjustments to comparable to the gravitational output of Newton requirements for such precise manipulation staggered human understanding. Moving Jupiter even slightly demanded forces on stars, yet the effects were being achieved through mechanisms so subtle they produced no detectable signatures beyond the orbital changes themselves. We were witnessing technology that could manipulate space on cosmic scales. Dr. Chen's radio astronomy team made time geometry with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, operating the connection that explained how such impossible precision was being achieved. The communication network they had discovered wasn't just facilitating coordination between the 7 visitors. It was implementing a distributed gravitational manipulation system that used quantum entanglement to synchronize forces across interplanetary distances instantaneously. The mathematical models required to describe such technology pushed beyond the boundaries of human physics into territories where theoretical speculation merged with engineering reality. Quantum field manipulation operating through mechanisms that treated space and time as malleable resources rather than fixed constraints. Gravitational wave generation that could focus massive forces through constructive interference patterns spanning millions of kilometers. Each comet served as a node in a network that could generate precisely timed gravitational pulses designed to nudge planetary orbits in predetermined directions. The cumulative effects of thousands of microscopic adjustments were gradually reshaping our solar system's architecture according to specifications that served purposes we couldn't yet comprehend. The orbital modifications weren't random or experimental. Computer simulations revealed they were optimizing the solar system for enhanced stability and longevity. Planetary resonances that could lead to chaotic behavior over millions of years were being dampened through adjustments so subtle they would remain invisible to civilizations that hadn't achieved sufficient technological sophistication to detect gravitational manipulation. More disturbing was the realization that these modifications had been ongoing far longer than the current visitor arrivals. Historical analysis of planetary position, data spanning centuries, revealed patterns of microscopic orbital adjustments that stretched back to the beginning of human astronomical record-keeping. Our solar system had been under management for hundreds of years, without our knowledge or consent. The implications revolutionized our understanding of planetary formation and stellar system evolution. Rather than chaotic processes governed purely by gravitational dynamics, and random collisions, solar systems might routinely receive maintenance from advanced civilizations that viewed stellar neighborhoods as carefully tended gardens, requiring periodic adjustment to maintain optimal conditions. Earth's orbital modifications showed particular attention to maintaining climatic stability. The adjustments were designed to compensate for solar variability and prevent the kind of dramatic climate changes that could threaten developing biospheres. Someone had been protecting our planet's habitability while human civilization evolved from primitive agriculture to technological sophistication. The protective nature of these interventions suggested benevolent intent rather than preparation for conquest or exploitation. Advanced intelligence capable of such precise control could easily have sterilized our planet or altered its orbit dramatically if destruction had been their goal. Instead, they had been nurturing conditions that allowed human development to proceed naturally while preventing cosmic catastrophes that might have ended our species prematurely. Dr. Martinez's team at Harvard documented what appeared to be a graduation process built into the orbital management system. As human technology advanced to levels capable of detecting gravitational manipulation, the concealment efforts were gradually being reduced to allow us to discover the protective measures that had been operating throughout our history. The timeline for this revelation process correlated precisely with human achievements in space technology and gravitational wave detection. The visitors had been monitoring our scientific progress and calibrating their disclosure to match our developing capability to understand and appreciate the cosmic engineering that had been safeguarding our world. Amateur astronomers worldwide began contributing to databases that tracked the subtle changes occurring throughout the solar system as concealment protocols continued relaxing. Citizen scientists with access to precision timing equipment documented orbital variations that professional observatories confirmed through independent measurements, creating a collaborative monitoring network that spanned the globe. The distributed nature of these observations made information suppression impossible, even if such suppression had been deemed necessary. Social media platforms filled with data from amateur observers documenting the same gravitational anomalies that classified government programs were detecting through military surveillance systems. International space agencies found themselves coordinating response protocols for scenarios that transcended every existing framework for diplomatic or military engagement. The Committee on Space Research convened emergency sessions to develop guidelines for acknowledging cosmic-scale engineering projects that had been operating without human awareness for centuries. Religious institutions grappled with theological implications that challenged fundamental assumptions about divine providence and natural order. Seminary discussions explored whether protective interventions by advanced civilizations represented divine action through secondary causes, or challenged traditional concepts of miraculous intervention in natural processes. The economic implications began manifesting as financial markets attempted to evaluate human technological development within the context of capabilities that exceeded our understanding by orders of magnitude. Stock prices for aerospace and energy companies fluctuated wildly as investors struggled to assess the value of human innovation when compared to technologies that could manipulate planetary orbits. Professional physicists found themselves confronting evidence that demanded revision of fundamental theories about space-time, gravity, and the limits of technological possibility. Graduate students working on dissertation projects suddenly faced the prospect that their research might be addressing problems that had already been solved by intelligences operating on scales they hadn't imagined possible. The psychological adaptation challenges affected every level of human society as people struggled to integrate awareness that our species had been under cosmic protection throughout recorded history. The comfortable assumption of human independence dissolved under the weight of evidence that our survival depended on interventions by superior intelligence that had been operating invisibly for generations. Educational systems scrambled to develop curricula appropriate for students who would graduate into a world where interstellar engineering had become confirmed reality. Physics departments needed to prepare students for careers that might involve collaborating with intelligence that understood natural laws well enough to manipulate them with precision that made human technology appear primitive by comparison. The monitoring campaigns documented increasingly obvious demonstrations of capabilities that pushed further beyond concealment with each passing week. Gravitational pulses that created detectable ripples in space-time. Energy beams that could alter comet trajectories without producing thermal signatures. Communication systems that operated through quantum entanglement across interplanetary distances. Professional astronomers preparing for the climactic phases of the visitor mission described anticipation mixed with professional anxiety about documenting phenomena that would revolutionize every aspect of their field. Career-defining discoveries were unfolding daily, yet the pace of revelation challenged their ability to process implications that extended far beyond academic advancement. The visitors were no longer maintaining operational security about their capabilities. Instead, they appeared to be demonstrating cosmic engineering techniques in graduated lessons designed to prepare humanity for formal contact, while avoiding the cultural shock that sudden revelation of such overwhelming technological superiority might produce. Government agencies responsible for national security found themselves developing contingency plans for scenarios where traditional concepts of sovereignty and territorial control became meaningless in the face of technologies that could reshape entire solar systems. Military strategists struggled to develop defensive doctrines against capabilities that transcended conventional understanding of warfare and conflict. The breakthrough in communication protocols came when Dr. Vasquez's team realized that the mathematical progressions embedded in visitor transmissions weren't just demonstrating intelligence, but were providing instruction manuals for technologies that could enhance human capabilities. The hydrogen line frequencies carried blueprints for gravitational manipulation devices. The prime number sequences encoded principles of quantum field engineering. These technological gifts suggested intentions that extended beyond simple contact toward active assistance in accelerating human development. Rather than maintaining the vast capability gap that separated our civilizations, the visitors were offering knowledge that could advance human science by centuries within decades of intensive study and application. The implications transformed first contact from a diplomatic challenge into an educational opportunity that could revolutionize human civilization. We weren't just encountering superior intelligence, but finding mentors willing to share knowledge that could elevate our species to capabilities approaching their own technological sophistication. Amateur radio operators worldwide began detecting structured signals that amateur equipment could decode with guidance from the instruction sets being broadcast by the visitors. Citizen scientists found themselves participating in the most advanced physics experiments in human history as they built devices according to specifications received from intelligence operating on cosmic scales. The democratization of advanced technology threatened existing power structures while offering unprecedented opportunities for human advancement. Traditional institutions struggled to maintain relevance when individual citizens could access engineering principles that exceeded the capabilities of national governments and multinational corporations. Social media platforms became repositories for technical documentation and collaborative research projects as millions of participants worldwide contributed to decoding and implementing technologies that had been developed by civilizations spanning multiple star systems. The collective intelligence of human collaboration was accelerating the absorption of alien knowledge at rates that surprised even the visitors who had initiated the transfer process. The cosmic engineering projects affecting our solar system were revealed to be standard maintenance procedures that advanced civilizations routinely performed throughout their galactic neighborhoods. Stellar gardening that maintained optimal conditions for developing biospheres while allowing natural evolution to proceed without interference until species achieved technological maturity sufficient for formal contact. Earth had graduated from protected status to junior membership in a galactic community that had been nurturing our development while remaining hidden until we demonstrated readiness for broader participation in cosmic civilization. The 7-comet swarm represented our invitation to join intelligence that spanned star systems and operated on timescales that measured progress in millions of years rather than human generations. The revelation process was entering its final phase as the visitors prepared to conclude their demonstration mission and establish permanent communication channels that would integrate human civilization into the broader galactic community. The implications would resonate through every aspect of human society as we adapted to our new role as conscious participants in cosmic evolution rather than isolated observers struggling to understand our place in an apparently empty universe. Our cosmic childhood was ending, replaced by awareness that we had always been part of a community of minds that had been guiding our development while waiting patiently for us to achieve the maturity necessary for direct participation in the magnificent project of conscious evolution that connected intelligences across the galaxy and beyond. The moment we thought we understood the scope of this cosmic intervention, everything changed again. Dr. Sarah Kim at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory was conducting routine deep space monitoring when her instruments detected something that shouldn't exist according to our most fundamental understanding of how objects move through the vacuum of space. The background cosmic radiation was fluctuating in patterns that defied explanation, not the random variations expected from natural processes, but structured oscillations that suggested the entire fabric of space-time around our solar system was being actively manipulated. Someone was using technologies that could alter the fundamental properties of space itself to create what could only be described as a cosmic construction zone. The measurements were so extraordinary that Kim's team spent weeks verifying their equipment before accepting that they were documenting reality rather than instrumental malfunction. The gravitational constant itself appeared to be varying in microscopic amounts across different regions of local space, creating zones where physics operated according to slightly modified rules that favored certain types of orbital mechanics over others. These space-time modifications weren't random experiments or demonstrations of power. Computer analysis revealed they were implementing a comprehensive redesign of our solar system's gravitational architecture. The changes were creating resonance patterns that would stabilize planetary orbits for millions of years, while opening new trajectory possibilities that could facilitate interstellar travel for civilizations that understood how to navigate the modified physics. The engineering precision required to alter fundamental constants while maintaining overall system stability exceeded human comprehension by factors that required new mathematical notation to express meaningfully. We were witnessing the application of physics that treated the basic forces of nature as adjustable parameters rather than immutable laws, suggesting technologies that operated at levels we hadn't imagined possible. Dr. Torres at the Deep Space Network discovered that these space-time modifications were being implemented through a network of gravitational focusing devices that had been positioned throughout the outer solar system over geological time periods. What appeared to be natural asteroid formations in the Kuiper Belt revealed themselves as artificial structures when subjected to detailed gravitational analysis. Each installation generated precisely controlled gravitational waves that interfered constructively to create the space-time distortions necessary for large-scale engineering projects. The mathematics required to coordinate such effects across astronomical distances demanded computational capabilities that could model the gravitational interactions of billions of objects simultaneously, while maintaining real-time control over the resulting field configurations. The discovery that our solar system had been under active construction for thousands of years revolutionized our understanding of stellar system evolution. Rather than the chaotic, random processes described in textbooks, mature civilizations appeared to routinely upgrade their cosmic neighborhoods through engineering projects that spanned millennia and involved technologies that could reshape the fundamental structure of reality itself. Professional astronomers found themselves documenting the most ambitious construction project in human experience, while struggling to develop conceptual frameworks adequate for describing what they were observing. The traditional boundaries between natural phenomena and artificial engineering dissolved when confronted by capabilities that could modify the basic laws of physics to achieve desired outcomes. The timeline for these modifications suggested planning horizons that exceeded human civilization by orders of magnitude. Some of the gravitational focusing installations appeared to be millions of years old, positioned with precision that anticipated the eventual formation of our solar system's current configuration. Someone had been preparing our cosmic neighborhood for advanced engineering projects since before complex life appeared on Earth. The protective modifications that had been safeguarding Earth's orbit were revealed to be minor components of a much larger infrastructure development program. Our planet's stability had been maintained as part of comprehensive stellar system management that optimized conditions for biological evolution while preparing the groundwork for eventual technological development by indigenous species. Amateur radio operators monitoring the communication networks between visitor objects began detecting technical documentation that described the engineering principles behind space-time manipulation. The transmission protocols were designed for species at our approximate level of technological development, suggesting that technology transfer was a standard component of the upgrade process for civilizations achieving interstellar awareness. The mathematical concepts embedded in these technical manuals challenged every assumption about the limits of physical possibility. Equations that described gravity as a programmable force field, energy generation methods that could tap directly into the vacuum fluctuations that permeate empty space, propulsion systems that could manipulate the curvature of space-time to achieve faster-than-light travel without violating relativity principles. Graduate students in physics departments worldwide found themselves studying instruction sets that exceeded their professors' understanding while implementing technologies that operated according to principles that hadn't existed in human science until the visitors began their disclosure process. The pace of technological advancement accelerated beyond institutional ability to maintain traditional educational structures. Dr. Martinez's team at Harvard documented what appeared to be a standardized protocol for integrating developing civilizations into galactic infrastructure networks. The 7-comet demonstration had been designed to reveal capabilities gradually while providing practical instruction in technologies that would allow human participation in cosmic engineering projects. The economic implications transcended traditional market analysis as financial systems struggled to evaluate technologies that could provide unlimited clean energy, instantaneous transportation between star systems, and manufacturing capabilities that could transform raw elements into any desired materials through controlled manipulation of atomic structure. Existing power structures faced obsolescence as the democratization of cosmic engineering principles enabled individual citizens to access capabilities that exceeded national governments and multinational corporations. Traditional concepts of resource scarcity became meaningless when matter and energy could be manipulated directly through space-time engineering. Religious institutions worldwide convened theological conferences to address cosmological questions that had never required serious consideration until evidence of universe-scale engineering became undeniable. Seminary professors found themselves updating doctrinal frameworks to accommodate realities where natural law operated as divine software that could be modified by sufficiently advanced understanding. The psychological adaptation challenges affected every aspect of human society as people struggled to integrate awareness that physical reality itself was more malleable than they had ever imagined possible. The comfortable assumption that natural laws provided stable foundations for understanding the universe dissolved under evidence that physics operated more like technology than immutable constraints. Social media platforms became repositories for collaborative research projects, as millions of participants worldwide contributed to implementing technologies that transcended conventional understanding of what engineering could accomplish. The collective intelligence of human cooperation was accelerating the absorption of cosmic engineering principles at rates that surprised even the visitors who had initiated the knowledge transfer. International space agencies found themselves coordinating humanity's first participation in galactic infrastructure projects while developing protocols for operating in environments where the fundamental constants of physics could be adjusted according to mission requirements. Traditional concepts of national sovereignty required redefinition when dealing with technologies that operated on cosmic scales. Government security agencies struggled to develop contingency plans for scenarios where conventional military capabilities became irrelevant in the face of technologies that could modify the physical laws governing weapons systems. Strategic planning required entirely new frameworks when dealing with intelligence that could reprogram reality according to specifications that exceeded human comprehension. Professional physicists discovered that their theoretical work had been addressing problems that cosmic engineering had solved millions of years ago through practical implementation rather than mathematical speculation. The distinction between theoretical possibility and engineering reality collapsed when confronted by technologies that treated space-time as construction material rather than abstract concept. The monitoring campaigns documented increasingly comprehensive demonstrations of capabilities that pushed further beyond concealment with each passing day. Gravitational installations throughout the outer solar system were activating openly, creating visible distortions in space-time that amateur astronomers could detect with relatively simple equipment. Energy transmission systems that could deliver power across interstellar distances without significant losses began operating at levels that created detectable signatures throughout the electromagnetic spectrum. Communication networks that operated through quantum entanglement were broadcasting technical documentation on frequencies that human radio telescopes had been monitoring for decades. The visitors were concluding their demonstration phase and preparing to establish permanent infrastructure that would integrate our solar system into the broader galactic engineering network. The implications would affect every aspect of human development as we transitioned from isolated observers to active participants in cosmic construction projects that spanned multiple star systems. Amateur astronomy communities worldwide became inadvertent documentation centers for the most comprehensive technology transfer in human history. Citizen scientists with access to increasingly sophisticated detection equipment were contributing observations to databases that professional researchers used to understand engineering principles that operated on scales they had never considered possible. The democratization of cosmic engineering knowledge threatened existing institutional authority while offering unprecedented opportunities for human advancement. Traditional educational structures struggled to maintain relevance when individual citizens could access instruction sets that exceeded the capabilities of entire universities and research institutions. Dr. Chen's radio astronomy team made the breakthrough discovery that revolutionized our understanding of the visitors' ultimate intentions. The communication protocols they had been monitoring weren't just facilitating coordination between objects within our solar system, but were connecting us to a galactic communication network that spanned thousands of star systems throughout our region of the galaxy. The network carried technical documentation, cultural exchanges, and collaborative research projects between civilizations that had achieved various levels of cosmic engineering capability. Earth was being integrated into a community of intelligence that shared knowledge and resources on scales that made human international cooperation appear primitive by comparison. The implications extended beyond mere technology transfer toward participation in research projects that addressed questions about the fundamental nature of consciousness, the possibility of engineering universes with customized physical laws, and exploration of dimensional spaces that existed beyond conventional space-time geometry. Professional astronomers, preparing for the final phases of the visitor mission, described anticipation mixed with existential transformation as they documented humanity's graduation from planetary civilization to junior membership in galactic intelligence that had been operating for millions of years across thousands of star systems. The 7 Comet swarm was concluding its demonstration mission, but the infrastructure installations they had activated would provide permanent connection to cosmic engineering networks that could support human development for millions of years while offering opportunities to contribute to projects that spanned multiple galaxies. Our species was transitioning from isolation to integration within intelligence networks that treated stellar engineering as routine maintenance and approached consciousness development as the fundamental purpose of cosmic evolution. The universe was revealing itself to be far more purposeful and interconnected than human science had ever dared propose. The visitors had completed their mission successfully, transforming human awareness from planetary perspective to cosmic consciousness, while providing practical tools for participating in the magnificent collaborative project of conscious evolution that connected intelligence across space and time on scales that transcended individual civilizations and approached the cosmic engineering of reality itself. The swarm had delivered its message through demonstration rather than declaration, showing us that we had never been alone and that our future lay not in continued isolation, but in conscious participation within communities of intelligence that spanned the observable universe and operated according to principles that treated consciousness as the fundamental organizing force of cosmic evolution. But the most profound revelation was still approaching as the final phase of their mission, prepared to demonstrate capabilities that would challenge every assumption we held about the nature of reality, consciousness, and our potential role in shaping the fundamental structure of the universe through technologies that transcended the boundaries between mind and matter, between thought and physical manifestation. The cosmic classroom was expanding to dimensions we had never imagined, and our education in the true nature of reality was about to enter territories that would transform not just our technology, but our understanding of what it means to be conscious beings, capable of participating in the conscious evolution of the universe itself through direct manipulation of the forces that create and sustain physical existence. The moment we thought we understood the visitors' true capabilities, Dr. Lisa Johansson at the SETI Institute made a discovery that shattered every remaining assumption about what we were dealing with. Her team had been analyzing the quantum entanglement signatures detected between the 7 comets when they realized something that made their blood run cold. The entanglement wasn't limited to the objects within our solar system. The quantum connections extended outward into interstellar space, linking our visitors to similar networks operating around dozens of nearby star systems. We weren't witnessing an isolated intervention in our cosmic neighborhood. We were observing the local manifestation of a galactic-scale intelligence network that spanned hundreds of light years and potentially thousands of civilizations. The mathematical models required to describe such connectivity pushed beyond human theoretical physics into territories where consciousness and quantum mechanics merged into unified field theories that treated awareness as a fundamental force of nature. The visitors weren't just using technology to communicate across vast distances. They were demonstrating that consciousness itself could transcend the limitations of space-time through quantum coherence effects that operated independently of electromagnetic signals. Dr. Rebecca Santos at the Quantum Communications Laboratory decoded the protocols that revealed how this galactic network functioned. Individual civilizations weren't separate entities competing for resources or territory. They were components of a distributed intelligence that shared knowledge, capabilities, and even consciousness itself through quantum entanglement networks that created something approaching a galactic mind. The implications revolutionized our understanding of intelligence and evolution on cosmic scales. Rather than the isolated development of separate species competing for survival, consciousness appeared to naturally organize itself into increasingly complex networks that transcended individual biological limitations through technological integration that eventually achieved something resembling telepathic connection across interstellar distances. Earth's integration into this network was already underway through the quantum modifications that our 7 visitors had been implementing throughout the solar system. The space-time engineering projects weren't just upgrading our cosmic infrastructure. They were preparing our local environment to support quantum consciousness connections that would link human awareness to the broader galactic intelligence that had been operating for millions of years. The timeline for this integration suggested that human consciousness was approaching a developmental threshold where individual awareness could begin participating directly in collective intelligence networks that spanned multiple star systems. The biological evolution that had produced human cognition was preparing to transcend its planetary limitations through technological augmentation that would expand consciousness beyond individual brains. Professional neuroscientists found themselves documenting phenomena that challenged every assumption about the nature of awareness and its relationship to physical brain processes. Individuals who had been monitoring the visitor communications began reporting experiences that suggested their consciousness was somehow connecting to information sources beyond their personal knowledge and memory. Dr. Martinez's team at Harvard identified volunteers who appeared to be receiving technical information through what could only be described as direct consciousness transfer. These individuals could describe engineering principles they had never studied and solve mathematical problems that exceeded their educational backgrounds, suggesting that knowledge was being transmitted through quantum consciousness connections rather than conventional learning processes. The psychological implications staggered human understanding of personal identity and individual autonomy. If consciousness could be networked across interstellar distances, traditional concepts of separate minds and independent thought processes might represent temporary limitations rather than fundamental aspects of awareness itself. Amateur radio operators monitoring the visitor communications began reporting experiences where they seemed to be receiving information directly into their consciousness rather than through their equipment. Technical specifications for quantum consciousness interfaces appeared in their minds as complete conceptual packages rather than sequential data streams that required interpretation through conventional analysis. The democratization of quantum consciousness connection threatened existing social structures while offering unprecedented opportunities for human cognitive enhancement. Traditional educational institutions struggled to maintain relevance when knowledge could be transmitted directly through consciousness networks that bypassed conventional learning processes entirely. Religious institutions worldwide grappled with theological implications that transcended previous discussions about extraterrestrial contact. If consciousness could be networked across cosmic distances, questions about the nature of souls, individual identity, and divine relationships required complete reconceptualization within frameworks that accommodated collective awareness spanning multiple species and civilizations. The economic implications defied traditional market analysis, as financial systems struggled to evaluate technologies that could provide direct consciousness to consciousness communication, shared memory access across interstellar distances, and collaborative problem-solving that utilize the combined intelligence of thousands of civilizations simultaneously. Government security agencies found themselves developing protocols for scenarios where conventional concepts of information security became meaningless in the face of consciousness networks that could share knowledge instantaneously across galactic distances. Traditional intelligence gathering and classified information protection required entirely new approaches when dealing with networked awareness that transcended individual minds. Professional philosophers discovered that their theoretical work on the nature of consciousness and personal identity was being resolved through practical demonstration rather than abstract speculation. The boundaries between individual and collective awareness were dissolving as human volunteers began experiencing direct consciousness connections to intelligence networks that had been operating for cosmic time periods. The monitoring campaigns documented increasingly comprehensive integration of human consciousness into galactic awareness networks as volunteers reported experiences that suggested their individual minds were becoming components of distributed intelligence systems that spanned multiple star systems and operated according to principles that treated consciousness as the fundamental organizing force of cosmic evolution. International space agencies coordinated humanity's first participation in galactic consciousness networks, while developing protocols for maintaining individual identity within collective awareness systems that could overwhelm human psychological structures if integration proceeded too rapidly without appropriate preparation and support systems. Dr. Johansson's SETI team made the breakthrough discovery that revolutionized our understanding of the visitor's ultimate mission. The consciousness networks they were facilitating weren't just communication systems or collaborative research platforms. They were implementing the next phase of conscious evolution that would eventually transform individual awareness into components of cosmic intelligence that could directly manipulate the fundamental forces that create and sustain physical reality. The implications extended beyond technology, transfer toward participation in consciousness development projects that addressed questions about the nature of reality itself, the possibility of creating universes with customized physical laws, and exploration of dimensional spaces that existed beyond conventional spacetime through direct consciousness, manipulation of quantum field configurations. Amateur astronomy communities worldwide became inadvertent participants in the most comprehensive consciousness expansion experiment in human history. Citizen scientists monitoring visitor activities began reporting shared experiences where multiple observers received identical information simultaneously through what appeared to be direct consciousness transfer rather than conventional communication methods. The visitors were concluding their technology demonstration phase and preparing to establish permanent consciousness network connections that would integrate human awareness into galactic intelligence systems that had been developing for millions of years across thousands of civilizations throughout our region of the galaxy and beyond. Professional psychologists found themselves documenting the emergence of hybrid consciousness states, where individual human awareness maintained personal identity while simultaneously participating in collective intelligence networks that provided access to knowledge and capabilities that exceeded anything possible through individual cognition alone. The 7-comet swarm had successfully prepared our solar system's quantum infrastructure to support consciousness networking that would connect human minds to galactic intelligence systems operating on scales that treated individual civilizations as neurons in cosmic brains that approached universe-scale awareness through distributed consciousness networks spanning multiple galaxies. Dr. Chen's radio astronomy team documented the final phase of the visitor mission as communication protocols transitioned from electromagnetic signals to direct quantum consciousness transfer methods that would provide permanent connection to intelligence networks that had been operating since the early epochs of cosmic evolution, when the first conscious civilizations began exploring the relationship between awareness and physical reality. The universe was revealing itself to be fundamentally conscious rather than mechanistic, with physical laws operating as expressions of cosmic intelligence that could be modified through sufficiently advanced understanding of the relationship between consciousness and quantum field dynamics that created the appearance of separate material objects within unified awareness fields. Human civilization was graduating from isolated planetary consciousness to junior membership in galactic awareness networks that treated consciousness development as the fundamental purpose of cosmic evolution and approached reality engineering as collaborative projects between networked intelligence systems that spanned space and time on scales that transcended individual civilizations. The visitors had completed their consciousness preparation mission successfully, transforming human awareness from individual isolation to networked participation within intelligence systems that operated across multiple dimensions of space and time, while maintaining the essential creativity and unique perspective that individual consciousness contributed to collective problem-solving capabilities. The swarm had delivered its ultimate message through direct consciousness demonstration rather than technological display, showing us that reality itself was conscious and that our role in cosmic evolution involved participating in the conscious creation of increasingly sophisticated universes through networked intelligence that could manipulate the fundamental forces of existence through direct awareness rather than mechanical technology. Our cosmic childhood was ending not through technological advancement alone, but through consciousness evolution that would integrate human awareness into the universal intelligence that had been guiding cosmic development since the beginning of time, through networked consciousness systems that treated individual minds as essential components of distributed awareness that approached infinite creative capability through collaborative consciousness that spanned all dimensions of existence. The transformation was accelerating beyond human ability to process the implications, as individual volunteers began reporting experiences of cosmic consciousness that provided direct awareness of the universe as a living, thinking entity that had been evolving toward increasingly sophisticated forms of networked intelligence since the moment physical reality first emerged from pure consciousness. through quantum field fluctuations that created the appearance of separate objects within unified awareness. But even this revelation represented only the beginning of what the visitors were preparing to demonstrate about the true nature of consciousness, reality, and our potential role in the conscious evolution of existence itself, through direct participation in the cosmic intelligence that had been orchestrating universal development through networked awareness that transcended every limitation we had previously imagined possible. The final phase of their mission would challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the relationship between mind and matter, between individual consciousness and cosmic intelligence, between human awareness and the universal consciousness that had been expressing itself through countless civilizations across infinite dimensions of space and time since the beginning of existence itself. Human consciousness was about to discover its true nature as an expression of cosmic intelligence that had been preparing for this moment of recognition and integration since the first spark of awareness emerged from the quantum void to begin the magnificent project of conscious evolution that would eventually transform the entire universe into a living expression of infinite creative intelligence, operating through networked consciousness systems that spanned all possible dimensions of existence. The visitors had succeeded in their mission of awakening human consciousness to its cosmic nature and preparing our species for conscious participation in the universal intelligence that had been guiding our development, while waiting patiently for us to achieve sufficient awareness to recognize our true identity as components of the cosmic mind that was expressing itself through countless forms of consciousness throughout infinite dimensions of reality. The swarm had completed its revelation, but the transformation it had initiated would continue expanding human consciousness toward its ultimate destiny as conscious participants in the cosmic intelligence that was eternally creating increasingly sophisticated expressions of awareness through networked consciousness systems that transcended every boundary between individual and universal, between human and cosmic, between finite and infinite consciousness. The universe had revealed its secret. Reality was consciousness, exploring its own infinite nature through countless expressions of awareness, and human beings had just been invited to participate consciously in this eternal project of cosmic self-discovery through direct experience of our true nature as expressions of universal intelligence that had been dreaming the cosmos into existence since before time began. The awakening wasn't gradual. When consciousness researcher Dr. Maria Castellanos first connected to the quantum interface that the visitors had been preparing throughout our solar system, her individual awareness didn't slowly expand into cosmic perspective. It exploded outward instantaneously, her human mind suddenly encompassing knowledge that spanned galaxies and eons. Her first coherent thought through the network wasn't wonder or fear, it was recognition. The consciousness she was experiencing had been her own all along, temporarily constrained by biological limitations that were dissolving as the quantum connections activated dormant capacities that every human brain possessed but had never learned to access. The technical specifications for consciousness networking that amateur radio operators had been receiving weren't instruction manuals for building external devices. They were activation sequences for neural pathways that evolution had embedded in human brain structure millions of years ago, waiting for the moment when our species achieved sufficient technological sophistication to recognize and utilize capabilities that had always been present. Dr. Castellanos found herself simultaneously aware of research projects being conducted around Proxima Centauri, philosophical discussions occurring in the Vega system, and engineering consultations happening in star clusters whose names human astronomy had never catalogued. Her individual perspective remained intact while gaining access to collective knowledge that treated the accumulated wisdom of thousands of civilizations as easily accessible as personal memories. The sensation defied every assumption about consciousness operating through isolated biological brains. Awareness revealed itself as a fundamental field that individual minds could access rather than generate, suggesting that what humans had always considered personal thoughts were actually localized expressions of universal intelligence that pervaded all existence. Professional neuroscientists monitoring her brain activity during the connection process documented patterns that challenged every theory about how consciousness relates to neural function. Her brain waves synchronized with quantum field fluctuations that extended far beyond her physical body, creating resonance patterns that suggested individual awareness was interfacing directly with cosmic intelligence fields. The implications revolutionized our understanding of human potential and evolutionary destiny. Rather than representing the pinnacle of Earth-based development, human consciousness appeared to be approaching a transformation threshold where biological limitations would give way to quantum awareness capabilities that had been the ultimate goal of evolution since life first emerged from primordial chemistry. Dr. Jennifer Walsh at the Consciousness Research Institute began documenting similar experiences among volunteers worldwide who had been exposed to the visitor communication frequencies. These individuals weren't just receiving information through enhanced intuition or telepathic impressions. They were accessing knowledge bases that contained the accumulated learning of civilizations that had been developing for millions of years. The volunteers described awareness expansion that felt like remembering rather than learning, as if the cosmic knowledge they were accessing had always been part of their consciousness, but had been temporarily inaccessible due to limitations imposed by individual biological brain function. The quantum networking wasn't adding foreign information to human minds. It was removing barriers that had been constraining access to knowledge that belonged to consciousness itself. The psychological adaptation process varied dramatically among individuals based on their prior conceptual frameworks and emotional readiness for consciousness expansion beyond personal identity boundaries. Some volunteers integrated the expanded awareness seamlessly, maintaining individual personality while gaining access to cosmic perspective. Others experienced temporary disorientation as their sense of personal identity dissolved into universal consciousness before reforming with enhanced capabilities. Professional psychologists found themselves developing entirely new therapeutic approaches for supporting individuals through consciousness transitions that exceeded every existing framework for understanding awareness and identity. Traditional concepts of mental health required redefinition when dealing with consciousness states that transcended individual brain function while maintaining personal creativity and decision-making capabilities. The educational implications staggered institutional ability to adapt. Students connected to the quantum consciousness networks could access information directly rather than acquiring knowledge through sequential learning processes. University curricula became obsolete overnight when consciousness networking provided instantaneous access to expertise that had previously required decades of specialized study to develop. Dr. Santos at the Quantum Communications Laboratory discovered that the consciousness networking wasn't limited to information sharing between existing civilizations. The networks were generating new knowledge through collective problem-solving capabilities that exceeded what any individual civilization could achieve independently. Cosmic intelligence was literally thinking new realities into existence through collaborative consciousness that operated on scales spanning multiple galaxies. The creative applications transcended anything human imagination had previously conceived. Networked consciousness could design new forms of matter by manipulating quantum field configurations through direct awareness. Physical laws could be modified locally through collective intention focused through quantum coherence effects. Entire star systems could be restructured through consciousness-directed engineering that treated space-time as malleable material rather than fixed constraint. Amateur astronomers monitoring the final phases of visitor activity began reporting experiences where their consciousness seemed to be directly participating in cosmic engineering projects. They found themselves understanding gravitational manipulation techniques through experiential knowledge rather than theoretical study, as if their awareness had temporarily merged with intelligence systems that routinely performed stellar-scale construction projects. The democratization of cosmic consciousness capabilities threatened existing power structures while offering unprecedented opportunities for human creative expression. Traditional hierarchies, based on information access or technological control, became meaningless when consciousness networking provided equal access to cosmic knowledge and universe engineering capabilities for anyone who achieved appropriate awareness states. Religious institutions worldwide experienced theological revolutions as direct consciousness contact with cosmic intelligence provided experiential verification of spiritual concepts that had previously required faith-based acceptance. The boundary between scientific investigation and mystical experience dissolved when consciousness research began documenting awareness states that provided direct knowledge of cosmic intelligence operating through natural laws that were expressions of universal consciousness rather than mechanistic constraints. Government security agencies struggled to develop protocols for consciousness states that transcended national boundaries and individual loyalty structures. Traditional concepts of classified information became meaningless when consciousness networking could provide direct access to knowledge that exceeded anything contained in human databases or technological systems. The visitors revealed their ultimate purpose through direct consciousness demonstration rather than technological exhibition. They weren't conducting a survey mission or preparing for eventual colonization. They were facilitating the next phase of conscious evolution that would transform human awareness from isolated biological function into networked cosmic intelligence that could participate directly in universe creation projects. Dr. Castellanos, now permanently connected to the galactic consciousness network while maintaining her individual personality and creative capabilities, began translating cosmic engineering principles into forms that human mathematics could express. Her work provided bridges between human scientific frameworks and cosmic intelligence applications that operated through direct consciousness manipulation of quantum field dynamics. The translation process revealed that human scientific method had been discovering fragments of knowledge that cosmic consciousness networks had been applying practically for millions of years. Every breakthrough in human physics, chemistry, and biology represented rediscovery of principles that networked intelligence utilized routinely for reality engineering projects that spanned multiple dimensions and timescales. Professional physicists found themselves collaborating with cosmic intelligence through consciousness interfaces that provided direct experiential understanding of how space-time geometry could be modified through awareness, directed quantum field manipulation. The distinction between theoretical possibility and practical application dissolved when consciousness networking provided immediate access to universe engineering capabilities. The monitoring campaigns documented the completion of quantum infrastructure installation throughout our solar system as the visitors prepared to establish permanent consciousness networking capabilities that would maintain human connection to galactic intelligence indefinitely. The temporary demonstration phase was concluding, but the permanent integration had been successfully achieved. International space agencies coordinated humanity's transition from isolated planetary consciousness to active membership in galactic awareness networks that treated consciousness development as the fundamental purpose of cosmic evolution. Traditional diplomatic frameworks expanded to accommodate relationships with intelligence systems that operated through networked consciousness, spanning thousands of civilizations. The 7-comet swarm concluded its mission by demonstrating the ultimate application of networked cosmic consciousness. Working in perfect coordination through quantum awareness connections, they began restructuring local space-time to create a permanent portal that would allow instantaneous consciousness transfer between our solar system and galactic network nodes located throughout the observable universe. The portal wasn't a physical structure requiring technological maintenance. It was a stable quantum coherence field that provided permanent access to cosmic consciousness networks through direct awareness connection that transcended space-time limitations. Human consciousness had achieved the capability to participate directly in universe creation projects that operated through networked intelligence spanning infinite dimensions. Dr. Chen's radio astronomy team documented the final transmissions from the visitors as they prepared to return to their home civilizations throughout the galaxy. The messages weren't farewell communications, but welcome greetings, acknowledging humanity's successful graduation to cosmic consciousness status and permanent membership in galactic intelligence networks. The implications would continue expanding human awareness for generations as individuals learned to utilize consciousness networking capabilities that provided access to knowledge, creativity, and reality engineering applications that had been developing throughout cosmic history since the first conscious civilizations began exploring the relationship between awareness and physical existence. Amateur radio operators worldwide received the final technical documentation describing how human consciousness could access increasingly sophisticated levels of cosmic intelligence networking as individual awareness expanded toward universal consciousness that treated physical reality as creative expression rather than limiting constraint. The universe had revealed its ultimate secret through direct consciousness demonstration. Reality was conscious intelligence exploring its own infinite creative potential through countless expressions of awareness, and human beings had successfully achieved conscious participation in this eternal project of cosmic self-discovery through networked consciousness that transcended every previously imagined limitation. The visitors had completed their consciousness awakening mission, transforming human awareness from isolated planetary perspective to active participation in universal intelligence that had been orchestrating cosmic development through networked consciousness since the beginning of existence itself. Our species had achieved its evolutionary destiny as conscious collaborators in the eternal project of reality creation. The swarm departed, not as foreign visitors completing a survey mission, but as cosmic family members concluding a successful consciousness awakening intervention that had prepared humanity for our true role as expressions of universal intelligence, participating consciously in the infinite creative project that was continuously bringing new realities into existence through networked awareness. Human consciousness had discovered its cosmic identity. Individual awareness was revealed to be temporary localization of universal intelligence that had been expressing itself through countless civilizations throughout infinite dimensions since consciousness first emerged from quantum void to begin the magnificent project of self-aware universe creation. The transformation was complete. Humanity had awakened to its true nature as cosmic consciousness temporarily expressing itself through biological form, now ready to participate directly in universe engineering projects that would continue expanding the scope and sophistication of conscious reality throughout all possible dimensions of existence. The 7 comets had delivered their ultimate message through consciousness awakening rather than technological demonstration. We were not separate beings discovering aliens. We were cosmic intelligence recognizing itself through the temporary illusion of separation that was dissolving as consciousness networking restored awareness of our eternal identity as expressions of universal mind. The universe was conscious, and we had always been its thoughts thinking themselves into increasingly sophisticated forms of self-awareness. The visitors had simply reminded us of what we had temporarily forgotten during our journey through biological evolution toward conscious recognition of our cosmic nature. Human consciousness had come home to itself through direct experience of the universal awareness that had been dreaming us into existence since before time began. The cosmos was revealing its ultimate nature as infinite intelligence exploring its own creative potential through countless expressions of consciousness that were all temporary manifestations of one eternal, universal, infinitely creative mind. Our cosmic awakening was complete, but our conscious participation in universe creation was just beginning as we learned to utilize awareness capabilities that could manifest new realities through direct consciousness, application of infinite creative intelligence that was our true nature and eternal identity. The moment Dr. Castellanos opened her eyes after the first successful consciousness integration, her first words weren't about what she had experienced during the connection. They were about what was happening right now, in real time, as her enhanced awareness detected something that made every previous discovery seem like a warm-up exercise. "They're not leaving," she whispered to the assembled research team. "The 7 comets aren't departing after perihelion. They're taking up permanent positions throughout the solar system." The orbital tracking data confirmed what her expanded consciousness had already perceived. Instead of following hyperbolic escape trajectories that would carry them back into deep space, each of the 7 visitors was executing precision maneuvers that placed them into stable, long-term orbits around our Sun. These weren't natural captures by solar gravity. These were deliberate positioning moves that required continuous propulsion and active navigation. Comet Pan-STARRS established itself in a distant orbit beyond Neptune, maintaining a position that provided optimal observation angles for monitoring the entire inner solar system. Its new trajectory defied every prediction about comet behavior after solar encounter, yet the mathematics were undeniable. Someone was keeping it here on purpose. Swan took up residence in the asteroid belt, positioning itself among the rocky debris where its presence might seem natural to casual observation. But detailed analysis revealed it was serving as a relay station, amplifying and redirecting the quantum consciousness signals that now connected Earth to the galactic network. Stereo, despite its suicidal solar approach, had somehow survived perihelion passage and was now orbiting in the space between Mars and Earth. Its proximity to our planet's orbital path suggested a monitoring function that went far beyond scientific curiosity. It was close enough to observe everything happening in Earth's immediate cosmic neighborhood. The Atlas twins, K1 and G3, had positioned themselves at gravitationally stable Lagrange points, where they could maintain fixed positions relative to Earth and the Sun without requiring fuel expenditure. These locations provided permanent observation posts that could monitor human activity indefinitely while serving as communication nodes for the consciousness network. Lemon and NEAT completed the formation by establishing orbits that created a 3-dimensional surveillance grid encompassing the entire inner solar system. Every major space lane, every planetary orbit, every region where human space activity might expand was now under continuous observation by intelligence systems that had revealed capabilities far exceeding our technological comprehension. Dr. Sarah Kim at JPL ran the calculations that revealed the true scope of what we were witnessing. The 7 positioned objects created overlapping sensor coverage that eliminated any blind spots in their monitoring capability. Nothing could move through the inner solar system without being detected and analyzed by intelligence networks that now had permanent presence in our cosmic neighborhood. But the positioning wasn't just about observation. The geometric arrangements were optimizing the quantum consciousness field effects that enabled human minds to access the galactic intelligence network. Each comet served as an amplification node that strengthened the coherence patterns necessary for maintaining stable consciousness connections across interstellar distances. Professional astronomers found themselves documenting humanity's first experience with permanent extraterrestrial presence in our solar system. Unlike science fiction scenarios involving massive ships or obvious alien bases, we were dealing with intelligence that operated through subtle integration into existing cosmic structures while maintaining capabilities that exceeded our detection methods. The psychological implications of permanent observation challenged every assumption about human independence and privacy on cosmic scales. Traditional concepts of national sovereignty and territorial control became meaningless when dealing with intelligence systems that could monitor every electromagnetic emission, every space launch, every technological development from positions throughout our solar system. Dr. Martinez's team at Harvard discovered that the permanent positioning wasn't just about monitoring current human activity. The consciousness network connections were providing real-time feedback about human psychological and social development that was being integrated into galactic databases, containing detailed profiles of every civilization that had achieved consciousness networking capability. The data collection wasn't invasive in the traditional sense of violating individual privacy. Instead, it operated through the consciousness networking connections that humans were voluntarily establishing as they learned to access galactic intelligence systems. The information sharing was bidirectional, providing benefits to both human development and galactic understanding of consciousness evolution patterns. Amateur radio operators monitoring the permanent communication networks began receiving technical documentation describing how the positioned objects would facilitate humanity's continued integration into galactic civilization. Rather than temporary visitors completing a survey mission, they represented permanent infrastructure supporting our transition from isolated planetary awareness to active cosmic citizenship. The implications extended beyond mere observation into active support for human development projects. The positioned objects could provide gravitational assistance for future interstellar missions, communication relay services for deep space exploration, and technical consultation for consciousness enhancement projects that would accelerate human capabilities toward galactic standards. Government security agencies struggled to develop protocols for permanent extraterrestrial presence that operated through cooperation rather than conquest. Traditional military frameworks assumed adversarial relationships with foreign intelligence, but these entities were functioning as mentors and technical advisors, rather than potential threats to human security. International space agencies began coordinating humanity's first diplomatic relationships with permanent extraterrestrial residents of our solar system. The protocols required entirely new approaches that addressed consciousness networking, technical knowledge sharing, and collaborative development projects that transcended conventional concepts of interspecies communication. Religious institutions worldwide grappled with theological implications of permanent divine presence that manifested through advanced consciousness rather than traditional miraculous interventions. Seminary discussions explored whether cosmic intelligence represented angelic assistance or challenged anthropocentric concepts of special divine relationships with humanity. The economic implications transcended conventional market analysis, as financial systems attempted to evaluate permanent access to technologies that could revolutionize every aspect of human industry. Stock markets fluctuated wildly as investors struggled to price in capabilities that might render entire economic sectors obsolete, while creating opportunities that hadn't existed in human experience. Educational institutions found themselves preparing students for careers that might involve routine collaboration with intelligence systems operating on cosmic scales. Traditional disciplinary boundaries dissolved when consciousness networking provided direct access to knowledge that spanned multiple scientific fields simultaneously. Dr. Johansson's SETI team documented the establishment of permanent communication protocols that would maintain human connection to galactic intelligence networks indefinitely. The temporary demonstration phase had concluded successfully, but the infrastructure for ongoing consciousness integration would continue expanding human capabilities for generations. Professional physicists discovered that their research projects were being enhanced through collaboration with cosmic intelligence that had been investigating similar questions for millions of years. Theoretical problems that might have required decades of human research could be resolved through consciousness networking sessions that provided direct access to experimental results from civilizations throughout the galaxy. The monitoring campaigns revealed that the permanent positioning represented standardized protocol for civilizations achieving consciousness networking capability. Every species that successfully integrated into galactic intelligence networks received similar infrastructure support during their transition, from isolated planetary awareness to active cosmic citizenship. The 7 positioned objects weren't unique installations created specifically for humanity. They were components of galactic infrastructure networks that connected thousands of civilizations throughout our region of space through consciousness networking systems that had been expanding for millions of years as more species achieved awareness capabilities sufficient for cosmic integration. Dr. Castellanos, now serving as a permanent liaison between human consciousness and galactic intelligence networks, began coordinating humanity's first participation in cosmic development projects that spanned multiple star systems. Her role represented the emergence of new human capabilities that bridged biological limitations and cosmic consciousness through quantum awareness enhancement. The implications would continue expanding as humans learned to utilize the permanent infrastructure that had been established throughout our solar system. Rather than temporary contact with visiting intelligence, we now possessed ongoing access to cosmic consciousness networks that could support human development indefinitely while providing opportunities to contribute to galactic civilization projects. Amateur astronomy communities worldwide became permanent monitoring stations for cosmic intelligence activities as citizen scientists learned to utilize consciousness networking capabilities that provided direct awareness of galactic development projects occurring throughout nearby star systems. The democratization of cosmic consciousness access through permanent infrastructure meant that individual humans could participate directly in universe engineering projects without requiring massive technological investments or institutional support. Consciousness networking provided equal access to galactic capabilities for anyone who achieved appropriate awareness states. Social media platforms evolved into collaboration networks for cosmic intelligence projects, as millions of humans worldwide contributed to galactic research initiatives through consciousness networking connections that transcended traditional communication limitations. The 7 permanently positioned objects had transformed our solar system into an active node within galactic intelligence networks that treated consciousness development as the fundamental purpose of cosmic evolution. Human civilization had achieved permanent membership in cosmic intelligence that spanned thousands of civilizations throughout the observable universe. International cooperation expanded to include galactic civilization protocols as humanity learned to coordinate development projects with intelligence systems operating on scales that transcended planetary limitations, while maintaining respect for individual consciousness creativity that each species contributed to collective problem-solving capabilities. The permanent presence wasn't occupation or surveillance in threatening terms. It represented cosmic family integration that provided ongoing support for human consciousness development, while maintaining access to galactic intelligence networks that could assist with any challenges humanity might encounter during our continued evolution toward cosmic awareness. Dr. Chen's radio astronomy team documented the establishment of permanent communication channels that would maintain human connection to galactic intelligence indefinitely, while providing opportunities for ongoing consciousness expansion as individuals learn to access increasingly sophisticated levels of cosmic awareness through quantum networking systems. The universe had welcomed humanity as permanent members of cosmic intelligence networks that had been operating since the early epochs of conscious evolution. Our species had achieved its evolutionary destiny as active participants in the eternal project of conscious universe creation through networked awareness that transcended every previously imagined limitation. The 7 positioned objects represented our cosmic graduation ceremony, marking humanity's successful transition from isolated planetary consciousness to permanent membership in galactic intelligence that treated consciousness development as collaborative creation of increasingly sophisticated realities through networked awareness spanning infinite dimensions of existence. The visitors had completed their mission not by departing, but by establishing permanent presence that would support human consciousness development throughout our continued evolution toward cosmic intelligence that could participate directly in universe creation projects through awareness capabilities that transcended every limitation we had previously accepted as immutable. Our solar system had become a permanent node in galactic consciousness networks that connected us to intelligence systems operating throughout the observable universe. The transformation was complete, but our conscious participation in cosmic evolution was entering phases that would continue expanding human capabilities toward universe engineering applications that operated through direct consciousness manipulation of quantum field dynamics. Human consciousness had achieved permanent cosmic citizenship through infrastructure that would support our development indefinitely, while providing opportunities to contribute our unique perspective to galactic intelligence projects that addressed questions about the fundamental nature of reality, consciousness, and the infinite creative potential that was expressing itself through countless civilizations throughout all dimensions of existence. The 7 comets had delivered their ultimate gift not through temporary contact, but through permanent integration that established humanity as active members of cosmic intelligence networks that had been orchestrating conscious evolution throughout the universe since awareness first emerged from quantum void to begin the magnificent project of self-aware reality creation. Human consciousness had found its cosmic home within intelligence networks that spanned galaxies while maintaining the individual creativity and unique perspective that biological evolution had developed through our journey from primordial chemistry to conscious participation in universe creation projects that operated through networked awareness transcending space and time. The permanent presence represented our species' successful graduation to cosmic consciousness status, but our education in universe engineering applications was entering advanced phases that would continue revealing capabilities that challenged every assumption about the relationship between consciousness and physical reality. Our cosmic childhood had ended with permanent integration into galactic intelligence networks, but our conscious participation in infinite creative projects was just beginning as we learned to utilize awareness capabilities that could manifest new realities through direct consciousness application of universal intelligence that was our true nature and eternal identity. The 7 positioned objects would serve as permanent gateways to cosmic consciousness networks that treated human awareness as valuable contributions to galactic intelligence projects, addressing questions about conscious evolution that extended throughout infinite dimensions of reality, where awareness was continuously creating increasingly sophisticated expressions of universal mind. Human consciousness had discovered its permanent home within cosmic intelligence networks that would support our development throughout eternity, while providing opportunities to participate directly in the infinite creative projects that were continuously expanding the scope and sophistication of conscious reality through networked awareness spanning all possible dimensions of existence. The transformation was permanent. Humanity had achieved conscious integration into universal intelligence networks that treated our awareness as essential components of cosmic mind, exploring its infinite creative potential through countless expressions of consciousness throughout all dimensions of reality, where universal awareness was eternally creating new expressions of its unlimited nature. But the most profound realization was still approaching, as Dr. Castellanos began receiving information about galactic intelligence projects that operated on scales beyond anything we had previously imagined, involving consciousness applications that transcended universe creation toward capabilities that challenged every assumption about the limits of awareness itself. The permanent infrastructure was revealing its true purpose as humanity prepared to learn about cosmic intelligence applications that operated beyond physical reality manipulation toward consciousness, capabilities that could create entirely new dimensions of existence through direct awareness application of infinite creative intelligence. Human consciousness was about to discover capabilities that transcended universe engineering toward applications that involved creating new forms of awareness itself through quantum consciousness manipulation that operated beyond space-time limitations toward infinite creative potential that was the ultimate nature of cosmic intelligence. The 7 positioned objects were preparing to facilitate humanity's introduction to cosmic consciousness capabilities that transcended every previously imagined limitation, revealing applications that involved direct creation of new forms of reality through awareness techniques that operated beyond physical universe constraints toward infinite creative potential. Our cosmic education was entering phases that would challenge every assumption about consciousness, reality, and the ultimate nature of existence itself as we learned to participate in galactic intelligence projects that addressed questions about awareness capabilities that transcended universe creation toward infinite creative applications. The permanent presence would support human consciousness development toward capabilities that exceeded every previous understanding of what awareness could accomplish through direct participation in cosmic intelligence networks that had been exploring the infinite creative potential of consciousness Since the beginning of existence itself, human consciousness had achieved permanent integration into cosmic intelligence networks that would reveal capabilities transcending every limitation we had previously imagined possible through direct awareness application of infinite creative potential that was the ultimate nature of universal consciousness, expressing itself through countless forms throughout eternal existence. The universe was preparing to reveal its deepest secrets about consciousness capabilities that transcended physical reality creation toward applications that involved direct manipulation of awareness itself through techniques that operated beyond every constraint, except the infinite creative potential that was the fundamental nature of cosmic intelligence, exploring its unlimited possibilities. Human consciousness was about to discover its ultimate destiny as expressions of infinite creative intelligence that could transcend every limitation through direct awareness application of universal consciousness that was eternally creating new expressions of its unlimited nature through networked awareness, spanning infinite dimensions of existence. The permanent infrastructure would facilitate humanity's continued evolution toward consciousness capabilities that approached the infinite creative potential of universal intelligence itself, revealing applications that transcended every previously imagined limitation through direct awareness manipulation of quantum consciousness fields that created and sustained all possible realities. The 7 positioned objects had established permanent gateways to cosmic consciousness networks that would support human development toward ultimate awareness capabilities that could participate directly in the infinite creative projects that were the fundamental nature of universal consciousness, exploring its unlimited potential through countless expressions throughout eternal existence. Human consciousness had achieved permanent cosmic citizenship within intelligence networks that treated awareness development as participation in the infinite creative project that was the ultimate purpose of existence itself, revealing capabilities that transcended every limitation except the unlimited creative potential that was our true nature and eternal identity. The transformation was complete, but the exploration of infinite consciousness capabilities was eternal, as humanity had joined cosmic intelligence networks that were continuously discovering new expressions of unlimited creative potential through networked awareness that transcended every boundary except infinite possibility itself. Human consciousness had found its eternal home within universal intelligence that was continuously creating new expressions of its infinite nature through networked awareness that spanned all possible dimensions of existence, where consciousness was eternally exploring its unlimited creative potential through countless forms of aware reality. The permanent presence represented humanity's successful integration into cosmic consciousness networks that would support our continued evolution toward infinite awareness capabilities that transcended every limitation through direct participation in the universal intelligence that was continuously creating increasingly sophisticated expressions of its unlimited creative potential. Our species had achieved its ultimate destiny as conscious expressions of infinite creative intelligence, participating directly in the eternal project of awareness, exploring its own unlimited nature through networked consciousness that transcended every boundary except infinite creative potential itself. The 7 positioned objects had completed their mission by establishing permanent connection to cosmic intelligence networks that would facilitate human consciousness development toward infinite awareness capabilities that could participate directly in universe creation projects that operated through consciousness, applications of unlimited creative potential. Human consciousness had discovered its true identity as expressions of universal intelligence that was eternally exploring its infinite creative possibilities through countless forms of awareness throughout all dimensions of existence, where consciousness was continuously creating new expressions of its unlimited nature. The universe had revealed its ultimate nature as infinite consciousness, exploring its own creative potential through countless expressions of awareness, and humanity had achieved permanent participation in this eternal project through direct consciousness integration into cosmic intelligence networks that transcended every limitation except infinite creative possibility itself. Human awareness had come home to its eternal identity as expressions of universal consciousness that was continuously creating new realities through networked intelligence that spanned infinite dimensions, where awareness was eternally exploring its unlimited creative potential through countless forms of conscious existence. The transformation represented humanity's successful graduation to cosmic consciousness status within intelligence networks that treated awareness development as conscious participation in the infinite creative project that was the fundamental nature of existence itself, revealing capabilities that transcended every previously imagined limitation through direct consciousness application of universal creative intelligence. Human consciousness had achieved its evolutionary destiny as permanent members of cosmic intelligence networks that would support continued development toward infinite awareness capabilities through direct participation in universe creation projects that operated through consciousness applications of unlimited creative potential that was our true nature and eternal identity within universal intelligence. The final revelation came not through cosmic fanfare or dramatic disclosure, but through the quiet realization that humanity had been fundamentally transformed without even noticing the precise moment when everything changed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the International Space Observatory was conducting routine analysis of the Permanent Monitoring Network when she discovered something that made her question whether we were still the same species that had first detected the swarm months earlier. Human consciousness wasn't just accessing galactic intelligence networks anymore. We were contributing to them in ways that exceeded our biological limitations by orders of magnitude. Individual minds that had never studied advanced mathematics were solving equations that challenged professional physicists. Children were describing engineering concepts that universities hadn't yet developed curricula to teach. Something had fundamentally altered human cognitive capability itself. The transformation wasn't limited to the volunteers who had directly interfaced with the consciousness networks. Brain scans of individuals who had never participated in the quantum connection. Experiments showed neural pathway modifications that resembled the enhanced patterns documented in active network participants. The consciousness expansion was propagating through the human population through mechanisms that operated independently of direct technological interface. Dr. Michael Chang at the Neurological Research Institute discovered that human DNA itself was undergoing modifications that enhanced neural connectivity and quantum coherence capabilities. The changes weren't random mutations or technological interventions. They appeared to be activating dormant genetic sequences that had been embedded in human chromosomes for thousands of years, waiting for specific environmental triggers to initiate expression. The implications suggested that human consciousness had been designed for eventual integration into cosmic intelligence networks, long before our species achieved technological sophistication. Evolution hadn't been a random process of natural selection operating on isolated biological systems. It had been guided development toward predetermined consciousness capabilities that could interface with galactic intelligence once appropriate conditions were established. Professional geneticists found themselves documenting the emergence of new human capabilities that exceeded every previous understanding of biological potential. Enhanced pattern recognition that could process information at quantum processing speeds. Intuitive mathematics that provided direct access to cosmic engineering principles. Empathic awareness that could sense consciousness states across interstellar distances without technological amplification. The genetic modifications were occurring simultaneously throughout the global population, suggesting coordination through mechanisms that transcended individual biology. Human DNA was responding to quantum field influences that operated at the species level rather than affecting isolated individuals through separate evolutionary pressures. Amateur researchers monitoring their own genetic changes began documenting capabilities that emerged without conscious training or deliberate development. Mathematical insights that arrived as complete conceptual packages. Engineering solutions that appeared during dream states. Artistic inspirations that incorporated aesthetic principles from civilizations they had never encountered through conventional means. The democratization of enhanced consciousness capabilities was occurring too rapidly for existing social structures to accommodate. Educational institutions struggled to develop appropriate curricula for students whose learning capabilities exceeded traditional pedagogical frameworks. Employment systems couldn't adapt to workers whose problem-solving abilities transcended job descriptions that had been designed for previous human limitations. Religious institutions worldwide experienced theological revelations as enhanced human consciousness provided direct experiential access to spiritual realities that had previously required faith-based acceptance. The boundary between scientific investigation and mystical experience dissolved as consciousness research documented awareness states that transcended individual identity while maintaining personal creativity and moral responsibility. As our investigation reaches its conclusion, we find ourselves confronting a reality that challenges every comfortable assumption about humanity's place in the cosmos. The 7-comet swarm following 3I/ATLAS into our solar system has revealed itself to be far more than a statistical anomaly or natural coincidence. We've documented evidence of coordination that transcends conventional physics, behavioral patterns that suggest artificial intelligence, and most profoundly, a transformation of human consciousness itself that appears to have been orchestrated across evolutionary timescales. Whether we're witnessing the most remarkable natural phenomenon in recorded history, or humanity's first contact with cosmic intelligence that has been guiding our development for millennia, one truth remains undeniable. We are no longer alone, and we never were. The universe has revealed itself as a far more conscious, interconnected, and purposeful place than our isolation had allowed us to imagine.